Welcome to Moments, the podcast, where we have conversations that matter. Hi, everyone. My name is Vasia Makris, your host and founder of Moments, a creative agency bridging art, culture, and technology. Joined by my amazing co-host, HardArt, each week we host a live X space deep diving into hot topics that are shaping the Web3 ecosystem. GM, and welcome to episode 12 of Moments, the podcast. I'm super excited for our year in review. I cannot believe it's already January. Well, almost January, but very excited to have everyone here. As we kind of fill out the room, I want to give it a minute. I'm going to ask the audience to do me a solid. Let's tweet this out, retweet the space link. Let's comment down below. Let's massage the algo, as Milton likes to phrase it, and get as many people in here as possible, because I honestly want to hear from everyone below at some point as well. We're going to break down the year in review. I'm going to go through it in a minute in terms of how we are kind of breaking it down, the conversation. But before we do, I want to start off by just letting everyone down here know what Moments the podcast is. Milton and I are typically here every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, but given the fact that it is New Year's and most of us will probably be hungover, we decided to reschedule and host the year in review today. So thank you all for joining. I know it's the holiday break. Most people, I hope, are just taking time to unwind and unplug. So I do appreciate everyone taking the time today. So Moments the podcast, it's pinned up top. If you're not already following, make sure to subscribe. We do record all of these episodes and upload them to Spotify, Apple Music, all the major streaming platforms to essentially just archive these conversations. We usually select a tweet that goes viral that week and bring the community together to just have an open discussion about whatever might be trending that week. This is obviously a little special edition, but I'm very excited to kick us off. So as we enter our 12th episode, I'm just going to very quickly say GM to my amazing co-host, HardArt, who's been here for the ride. What's up, Milton? How are you?
GM, doing well. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, happy Hanukkah. Good to see everybody in the room. I hope y'all had some R&R time, and thank you for joining us once again for the final recap of 2024. I got to give praise to Vasia, the host here, for setting this up and bringing us into 2024 with video. So we do have the ability to video highlights, and we're going to keep upgrading and expanding our capacity with that through 2025. So we look forward to joining you Wednesdays at 1 p.m. as normal. But yeah, we had to get this last one in. So I'm stoked. We have a bunch of guest speakers that we invited, like Steven and Merve, who are on stage with us, and Paper Buddha. And then, as usual, we do want to hear from you, like Vasia said, to have as many guests as possible on stage. At any given time, we're usually collapsing the stage with 10 people. So we want to have a full stage as normal today. But I see some great faces in the room. Manix here, Sigma X, Plotsky, Selkie, Sage DeSavage, Jose Antonio, Claudio, Yet, Mike Wheeler, In the Black, Denim, and Becky, the BTC Whale. Man, I'm jealous. I want to be like you. So thanks for joining us. And one more call to action, like Vasia said, let's massage that algo. Let's do the dance, as I like to call it now, and hit the like button, hit the retweet button, do those comments, because I'm going broke very quickly, especially with the markets today. But I do want to do one more giveaway of $25 worth of bogus. So we had Wildy win the first one. That was 2 weeks ago. Last week, we were talking about our lovely ladies in Web3, and Rachel Wood won that one for her humor and her wit when she was talking about posting more ass and boobies, and she had shots of a donkey and a blue-footed booby on her feed, which is going to help her sell more art. That one won. So yeah, we want to do that again today, and that also helps do a permanent record in written form. So we're trying to get as many mediums as possible, video, audio recordings, and then this is a nice written timeline. And so jump on that thread. I've already got Paper Buddha chiming in with his Prince gifts, which is great. We played Prince Party Like It's 1999 on the way in. I love it, PV. Manic is commenting here. So is Yet, Sigma X. Thanks for the love. Continue to do that. And I'll pick my favorite, which usually involves either humor or some type of media. So you're off to a good start, but continue that trend, and let's stack that up. That'll help fill the room out as well. But yes, looking forward to this conversation and can't wait to pass the mic around. Vasia, I think I'll give you the honors. You've got an order, I believe, you want to pass the mic to next, but thanks for letting me say hello.
Yeah, so before we start having other people on stage, I just want to give a quick overview before we jump into the full conversation. So we're breaking down 2024 by these different topics and categories. So there's a lot to cover. We did invite specific guests to talk about each specific category, and we're going to ask that our guests down below that just typically request and jump in throughout the conversation, we're going to ask that for this space, we're going to share at the very end. So we'll dedicate a whole portion to people coming up and sharing their own 2024 highlights, and we want to give everyone the time to pin tweets up top to share what they've been working on and to really highlight the community as well. But the three main categories I want to highlight with our guest speakers is going to be the IRL events of 2024, the art component, and community. So at the end of again at the end of the conversation, we'll let everyone else jump on stage and share their thoughts. Before we do dive in, I just want to take a second and again thank everyone for tuning in and listening. And most importantly, just want to say thank you to the team that's been here. So I shouted out Milton, obviously the co-host, but Yet is also the one producing and editing and doing a lot of things behind the scenes. And, I don't want to forget to emphasize how much of a team effort this is. So I'm very thankful for both of you guys and everyone else that has supported and shown love and continues to tune in to these weekly spaces. So Milton, I'm going to just quickly hand you the mic real quick and we can then go around the room very quickly. But before we start the full recap, how are you? How's your year been? Like anything quick you want to share with us?
Yeah, it's been fun. I've got the chance to continue the interview train that I started with Turbo last year. I've had a lot of great guests. A lot of them come from Paper Buddha's The Temple, so I want to show him love as always because he's always feeding me great guests to host. But yeah, I got some other opportunities I didn't even expect, but I had some handoffs from my friend Andrew, for example, after visiting Beeple's Death Match this summer at Beeple Studios. I got to interview the winner, Josh Brockett, which is really cool. I sent him a GM post and an invite, so I'm hoping that he pops in as well. But he was inspired by people and did his everydays, which I think that's an awesome trend. We're going to have Roger Dickerman on the show later, who I've had the pleasure of seeing at some of the 24 hours of art events, thanks to people like Selkie, even when Roger can't make it. That community is so strong. He has individuals stand in for him, but just got to see him most recently in Basel. But yeah, I've had the pleasure of strengthening some existing connections this year, and then even meeting new people, even if that's from afar. Stephen Miller and I, Stephen, who's on stage, didn't get the chance to meet him, Marfa. We must have crossed paths 100 times, but I have gotten to know his reports and his updates on what's coming at you for the month, which is all inclusive, multi chain. If you're looking for art and you want to collect, that's the number one spot to go to. So I've seen a lot of good trends pop up this year. I think that we are down to a core group of people. You might have noticed we are a bit of a smaller crowd these days, but there are no tourists. Much like Marfa I just mentioned, there's no tourists there. So, the people here are dedicated. I got to finish up my IRL tour. I was a self-proclaimed conference maxi this year. And I was just really fortunate to go attend all these amazing events. And I think that was one of the strongest points of this year in 2024. And so I think that's how we're actually going to start the conversation off today. We have three big bullet points we want to cover. And IRL, I think, was such an integral part of that for me. It always is. But this year in particular, I think a lot of people amplified their game and did bigger and better things than we've seen before. So I saw a lot of improvement. There was no TES poll this year, for example. So we've taken some hard lessons from the past and we've seen big improvements, which is great. Right track. And I'm really excited to jump into 2025. I think we've got even brighter days ahead of us.
No test pool, that's for sure. I definitely agree and can't wait to really dive into that IRL conversation. Before we do, I just want to hand the mic to our guest co-host today. Medva is joining us. Hey girl, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I feel weird because today I should like start my doing my recap. So I checked my last year's recap and I thought that, oh my God, it's just like it's been feel like ages. Even this year feels like last year already. So I don't know how I totally lost how should I feel about it. This year I've been all the events all around the world, and right now when I like sit and think, oh my God, I've been to places it's been a weird year for like, if it was a word, if I was like Oxford that I need to like choose the word for the year, it's gonna be like weird. How about you guys? And I really missed you, to be honest. After Marfa, we couldn't even like talk, and like it's been hectic. Miss you guys.
Oh, Merv, miss you too. Weird is, I like to use the word interesting just because it's a little bit more ambiguous. But yes, I can see why you would say weird. I'm sorry to hear. I did see your GM post today of like trying to make the thread and how stressful that looked, that little GIF that you posted. But yeah, I think it's been a very interesting year overall, obviously good and bad. But I think overall, this type of year really sets the stage for next year. And I think you have to go through those like growing pains and like awkward, uncomfortable transitions. And at least that's how I've been feeling. And it really just, I think, is going to set us up for a very exciting and fulfilling 2025. So I'm definitely trying to look at it from a positive perspective. But time is a crazy concept. Like it's a very strange, it feels like just yesterday, but at the same time, that feels like a lifetime ago. And the last 3-4 years of my life in Web3 has felt like multiple different lifetimes. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's interesting. I'm grateful for it, the good, bad, and ugly. What can we say? But thank you for joining us, Marvin. I'm excited to hear more about
Of
your
course.
experiences during the IRL events, and we'll touch upon all of them. But real quick, I want to throw the mic to Paper Buddha. Thanks, PB, for joining us. How are you? GM.
Good morning. Good morning, friends. I'm trying to win this joint rolling competition with myself right now.
I definitely think you got it in the bag. Thanks for
Yeah.
joining us, and I'm excited to hear also from your perspectives with the different IRL events. We'll touch upon Blunts and Brunch and all the awesome things that you've been hosting and community building that I've personally am very grateful I got to experience the last big events with Marfa and in Miami. But thanks for joining us. And Stephen, real quick, I just want to say GM to you too. And how's your 2024 been?
GM. It's been a really, really beautiful 2024. I honestly can only think of one thing off the hand right now, that I would have loved to have actually happened that would have made it even more beautiful, and that would have been meeting both you and HardArt in Marfa or in Miami. But unfortunately, that was not in the cards. So looking forward to 2025 where we can actually make that happen. But honestly, it was a really great year for art, and it was a great year to be a part of this ecosystem. So I'm thrilled to be here with you guys today, and I appreciate the invite.
Dude, you know what I want for Christmas 2025 is whatever microphone you use to give you that sultry radio voice there. I want to deepen my voice next year like you, Steven. That's my goal. But yeah, dude, I
Yeah,
don't know
or
how we,
some NPR shit. This is like the
right?
NPR microphone.
I know I'm sitting here on headphones. Me and Vasia are looking at each other. I'm on Apple headphones. I got to up my game in 2025 for sure. But Steven, I don't know how we missed each other, dude. I plan on doing as much of the tour, maybe not quite as much as I did this year, but let's definitely shake hands next year. But until then, I'm excited to have you on stage. I'm honored. In fact, I just got to hear you speaking with RD, who's going to be on later. He did a 24-hour space, which is epic. Go figure, that guy, hardest working guy in Web3, was able to endure 24 hours straight. But I heard you on there and you had some great commentary. So this will be a little deja vu. I think we'll have some similar guests, but we won't cover all the same ground. But yeah, excited to have you here with us, man. Appreciate you being here.
Stephen, that was a beautiful answer. Thank you so much for bringing the positivity. And yeah, I don't understand how we missed each other twice too. That's kind of wasn't in the cards, like you said, but hopefully soon. And I guess this is a great transition into talking about IRL events. So obviously, one of the major important components of our ecosystem, and something we've definitely talked a lot about on these episodes in the past about how important IRL events are. So we're going to do a very quick overview of all the different 2024 events that have happened. They've kind of been back to back. So kudos to the people that have actually been able to make it to all of these. That's a lot of traveling. But I do want to also say we obviously may have missed a few. So I want to encourage people to be commenting down below. If we missed any events, please feel free to comment, to drop, to let us know what we may have missed. But also, if you've been to some of these events, you guys have content and footage. I definitely want to see photos. I want to see videos. I want to see what was happening. So feel free to also just, drop some tweets and links in there so that we can all go through and check it out. So Milton, this is your strong suit. I'm going to hand the mic right back to you. Tell us about the 2024 IRL event overview.
Let's go. I'm glad that we're starting off with this one because I am well versed this year. I'd gone to some of the conferences in the past, but I did make a point to visit as many as damn possible this year. And I think I did a pretty good job of dotting the map. So This year started off at a place I had not been before, but I had heard good things about, particularly from people like Dave Krugman. And so I visited Zonamaco in Mexico. I was also prompted for sure by Violet Jones and Trevor Jones, who were going to be there. Violet had her own residency there with Art House. So I highly, highly recommend to go to Zonamaco, Mexico for multiple reasons. A, Mexico City is badass. Two, it's cheap. The food culture is amazing. Oh, yeah, and there's art. There's really good art, as a matter of fact. And there's a decent Web3 presence. There's quite a few digital nomads who have moved there. I got the chance to interview a lovely lady. She goes by the name of Grande Enchilada. She works for Dada. For example, there's a guy named Pixelosopher there, and Empress Trash, as a matter of fact, has moved there not too long ago. So yeah, we got the chance to go down to Zonamaco. Vasia was there with me for that one. That was really cool. Our friend Natasha, we rented a place right in the nice area there, walkable to all the restaurants and bars, which was great. And we started off at the Art House event. So again, that was a nice Web3 touch. You had several artists there like Yeni Passanen, like Violet Jones, like Daniel Martin, and there's a couple, you can fill in the blanks for me, Vasia, that I'm missing. But that was a great event. They had a whole space to themselves displaying digital and physical art. And again, one of my favorite things about conferences is proximity, the ones that can make that happen. I add a lot of extra points to because being able to get back and forth to these events is huge. And you could walk right down the street from the Art House event to Bright Moments. So Bright Moments had a really nice event. They had, AI is obviously top of mind share right now. They had a great AI installation where you could speak to image right there and it would produce video content. A lot of us have seen that with static images, but you could produce video content there. And that was one of the stops on the Bright Moments tour. I don't know enough about Bright Moments because I never got involved stupidly, but I would love to know more. I know it's done now.
That's a
Merve can speak on it.
shame. You
I knew
that's a
Merve was going to come in.
shame.
I'm glad you jumped in. I was going to hand the mic to you, Merve, but tell me a little bit about Bright Moments, why I am lacking in that department and why I'm so stupid for doing so. But what did I miss?
Yeah,
What did I miss
I
on
don't
that
like to
tour?
call you stupid, but it's a stupid move not to like go any of their events. So okay, I'm gonna start with the bright moments then. I was gonna mention it anyways. Um, this year there is like three important events I've been to, and it's kind of changed some stuff in me. And Bright Moments is one of them. Um, I attended my first and the last one because it's ended in April, I guess. I suppose. I don't remember the time. It should be April. It was in Venice. It was super close to me. And to be honest, before the event, I didn't know much stuff about them. I knew that they are doing some exhibitions and in Paris. So you told me that they're gonna be in Venice for the bright moments, and I say, okay, cool. So what is the event? When it's gonna happen? And then it's so easy for me to, and I went there, and it was really something different. They are not making events. They're providing experience and like I mean that was so different. The community is incredibly strong. It's been like 3 years that they are doing this, so there's a very big and strong community behind. And the team, I mean, it can be the most hardworking and thoughtful team in in the event side, in the Web3. So like their production is incredible that you cannot imagine. And after the event, during the event, to be honest, I met all the like the team and how do they do that. and strongly suggest you guys to watch their documentary. I think you can mint partially, or it's gonna be like a full screening soon, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Um, the reason I really like the community there is that they knew what they're doing. So in our communities, there's lots of people like doing art, collecting, but there is no like some of them without foundation, or they're just doing it because it's cool. But during the bright moments, people like were they knew what they did. They know what they why they are collecting, why they are there. So it was more like a Marfa community, even more niche because it was just one event. Um, but their event were something different that we didn't see in any others, Milton. That's why I'm saying you just missed it. And I saw the AI thing that they did in Miami, but I mean it's not comparable. I knew it looks good, it looks okay, but yeah.
Merve, I love that you brought up. I mean, I actually never had a chance to attend either, so FOMO is very real. I didn't know that they were no longer going to be hosting events, but I think you mentioned two super important things. I mean, the fact that they're providing experiences and it's not just parties or events, and the fact that they focus on building that strong community. And I think that's what a lot of the 2024 events started to kind of develop and grow into compared to previous years. I'm very curious. I definitely have to look up the documentary and check that out more. And I wanted to also just circle back to Mexico. I know Milton mentioned for those that maybe are not familiar, I just want to set the stage a little bit better. But in Mexico, they had the traditional art fair, and actually, I was extremely impressed by it in general. It was comparable to Art Basel or the LA Art Show, and I honestly really liked it more than both of those events. I think they did a great job in terms of the art that they had. I did pin up a tweet actually for those familiar with Alejandro Cartagena and the Fellowship. They actually had nice aunties represented there, and so it was really interesting seeing in a very traditional setting, obviously, having someone who's an AI-based artist and the introduction there and people engaging and interacting with the artwork. It was extremely, I just had a lot of enjoyment getting to see that kind of merger and people's reactions to it. I'm also going to pin up one more tweet right now, and I think Miss Jones joined the stage. Violet is here with us too, so maybe she can share a little bit more about it too. But Milton mentioned the art house residency and the show that they did, and I also again love the fact that we're seeing they had the physical paintings. They had a whole residency going on, which I want to talk more about later as well. The fact that we've been seeing a lot more residencies pop up in the last year, and they also not only targeted the local community, they were in the local news, but they also were partnering with people like MuseFrame to also display and exhibit the NFT component. So I just love seeing the blending and the bridging of the traditional with Web3 and the digital. And I think Violet is a good person. Violet, if you're able to jump on stage, I would love to hear more from you and your experience at the art residency.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for the late joining, but I was just making pizza for Mr. Jones. Hi, everyone.
It's amazing.
He's also listening on his own phone. So yeah, in terms of residency in Mexico, Art House has been doing residencies for years, and it was more traditional and aimed at traditional artists, sculptors, painters, filmmakers, printmakers. And last year, it kind of transitioned into Web3 and decided to merge a little bit of Web3. Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
No, that was last year. Last year in January. Doesn't matter.
No,
Jones.
3 years ago.
Each of people. Forgive my husband. He's like very much deep into pizza. Anyway, so the last residency we did in Mexico, it was kind of in combination with Web3. So we did get into so-called bed with muse frames after Santiago Pani, who met Mr. Muse at the castle party in France. So they decided to lend us some screens so we could display digital artworks. Also, some of the Web3 artists were participating. So members of the art house are one leg in traditional art world, the other leg in Web3. But also we had Jenny Passanen from the Bloom Collective, and it was and we actually got Jenny to do some physical work as well, that she came from that world. Then she was very much digital, and now she is going back partially into traditional art world. It was a lot of collaboration, cooperation, and a combination of both marriage of digital and traditional art world. In natural gallery settings, it was a wonderful result, and the show was just beautiful. A lot of people still do not understand fully the digital world too much, but it's a step. You educate people, and once they see a lot of traditional art and then they see something digital, they start asking questions, they start paying attention, so it's not entirely foreign. So I feel that those marriages are a nice bridge for people who are very alien to these ideas. And I feel it's a great way through residencies also to spark camaraderie around artists and spark some more inspiration around them.
Completely agree, V. And I, again, super grateful that both Milton and I got to attend. And like you said, it's that merger and introduction. And I mean, I remember Trevor having his painting up and taking out his phone and showing people the AR overlays and, all these different components, and you as well, just being able to walk people through and have the conversations, which is another just reason why these in-person events are extremely important to have. So yeah, congratulations again on the residency and continuing to do those. Go ahead.
Thank you. The funny story, because I premiered my sugar-coated series, like the very first 5 paintings, and I had a lot of sweets made out of clay. But then I had a bowl of chocolates at the end for people to help themselves too. And there was one guy who actually bit on my sculpture. So that was a kind of funny thing, because, well, my sculptures must have looked realistic enough for him not to reach for a normal chocolate, but eat a little bit of my clay sculpture.
They do look realistic because I have them here. My little cousins trick some of them every time. If you want to, Violet, you're more than welcome, by the way, to just drop a tweet that you've posted from the exhibition. Would love to have you drop it in the comments for people to go back and reference as well. But thank you for just sharing a bit more on what you guys did in Mexico. Milton, I'm going to hand you the mic again. Let's keep going because I know we have a lot to cover. So the Mexico's in February, I believe, and we also had NFT Paris in February, which, sir, you literally went from Mexico straight, I think, to Paris. So tell us more. What else was on the agenda?
I did, back to back. So NFT Paris, this was my first visit. I will just hit some dots here on my timeline. I won't go into depth as much as Mexico because I think less people make it to Mexico, so it was worth spending more time there. But Paris was good. I enjoyed the actual conference itself. I spent quite a bit of time there. One reason being because things there are kind of spread apart. So that's my least favorite things about conferences like Paris, like New York, where you've got to do a lot of transit. Sometimes it's just the unfortunate truth. But when I did venture outside of the venue itself, which had, I'll touch on a couple quick things that I thought were great there. Mainly Una's Look, Touch, Own. She had a geodesic dome in there. And I initially had gotten with John Villat, who reached out to do an interview. So I did a turbo interview with her for an hour, had my good friend James Bristow interview me with her as a co-host. And then she convinced me to actually participate, which I was a bit nervous to do for the Look, Touch, Own, which if you don't know, you go inside with Una for 2 pretty uncomfortable minutes, if I'm going to be honest. And she has her breasts out. She had breast augmentation at one point early in her life, and then she's since had them removed. And there's a lot of commentary around that. It's not the healthiest thing for women. She has some facts behind that you'll learn. So I did learn some things about that process and some of the detrimental health effects that can have for women. But obviously commentary about what is beautiful and what crazy lengths some women go to try and augment that beauty. But that was a good event. I think Una's one of the wittiest, funniest, smartest people in our space. And she proved it there for an hour, and then she had me do the event itself, and it was different. It was interesting. I'll put it like Vasia. But she does read some of your biometrics, and even some subjective things about how far you stand from her, whether you actually make physical contact with her, where your eyes go, your heart rate, etc. So she's creating art out of that, and I think it's a great conversation starter. So that was fun. Outside of that, we got to go to the IHAM gallery, which Trevor, who's on stage, and Violet know very well because Trevor's been on display at the IHAM before the Castle Party in France. We all love Greta here in our community. Greta has since moved on to work with NFC, which we're so happy for because that's a big growing event that needs even more help than just John Karp can produce. So he's got a great sidekick now with Greta. But IHAM Gallery at that point in time was great. They were one of the few people who allowed you to listen to the audio, which you don't often find in digital art galleries. And I think that's a huge component that's missed. So I did appreciate the IHAM Gallery. They throw great events and they allow you to enjoy that audio. Another side event that I thought was great was Pauline and Pobedine's event. They curated 47 artists there, and the gallery was really well done. Everything looked perfect. Vasia would have been proud. She is the consummate person when it comes to display, making sure that it's done right, that the orientation is proper. This was all done correctly. There was one tiny piece of constructive criticism about some of the lights shining on one screen and one screen only out of 47. They quickly fixed that even on site while I was there. So I thought that they did a bang up job at their event. Also, Super Chief had a gallery where we got to see people like Polygon 1993. We got to see Empress Trash and her long form generative AI project. She was talking about that. That was a great gallery. We visited multiple times. They were a bit spread out. So again, this is just my call to action. If you're throwing one of these events and you're doing a side event, please, please, please make it as close as possible to the actual conference itself. It just helps people spend more quality time at the events instead of transit. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add to Paris, but if not, I think we can move on to NFT NYC. Vasia, I'll let you make that decision.
Yeah, we can jump to New York. Go ahead, Milton. Take us around the world. I feel like you've
Take
literally
us
been to
around
every
the
city.
world.
So I'm pinning your photos up top, sir. Keep going.
All right, let's go. Let's go. So, well, we could start with Brunch by Fidel. I've been to several brunches at this point. I do enjoy those. They're a good chance to actually have a conversation without music blaring in your ears, and doesn't hurt. You get fed for free too. So that's not so bad, is it? But yes, that was great. Click Create at Station 3, I thought was a fantastic event. Hadn't been to Station 3 before. What a perfect venue to host events. Click Create has done quality events every single time without fail. And the people that are in the room are super quality as well. So that's a great time to network. And they show plenty of art, which is always appreciated. I think they also show art well. Loom Studios was great. David Henry Nobody Jr. was there. They have the immersive room. They have the 5 floors that you can visit, talking about the challenges of getting around in New York. As you know, you've got to oftentimes make it from one location in uptown Manhattan all the way to Brooklyn and everywhere in between. And I did miss one of the best events at Loom Studios, so I'm hoping somebody can fill in the blanks. But I know Patrick Amadon was there, for example. There were bunch of big players in our industry that were there. But I did get to, there were several events. So luckily, Loom Studios hosted at least 3 events. Merve is raising her hand. I think she might have been one of the lucky ones to get to the door as I was stuck in traffic. What was supposed to be a 15-minute drive turned into an hour and a half through some accidents along the way. So Merve, I'll let you jump in there and talk to us. Also, don't forget to touch on Transient Labs because Transient Labs had events there too. So great opportunity to hand you the mic.
Yay! Yeah, we had an event in Oculus Center in Canvas with Unheard. I'm sending my hugs to all the Transient Labs team and the little Richard. So it was fun. It was really nice event. I just wanted to share when you were saying it's really hard to get one point to another. And because of the Loom Studio, the location and the Oculus Center, so it's not super far from each other, but I mean it was my first time in New York, and I was not so confident to use subway in the evening. So the last day of our event in the Oculus, I had a little like time frame to go to the loom, and I thought I will go back and help the guys like packing up. And then um i I was afraid to use the subway, so I was calling the Ubers, and the time it was like I think 8 or 7ish something, because our event was gonna end like 9. So I was looking for the Ubers, like 7 Uber canceled, and I start crying for real. And there was Delta at the outside, and it's like, oh my God, what are you doing? Why are you crying? I was like crying because like I was not able to go back to Oculus Center. It was like horrific. It was a weird feeling that I was like I felt lost. Oh my God, what am I doing right now? So how can I go back? And I called the team that I cannot make it, guys. I stuck here. But when I look back, and I just kind of laugh right now, because right now if I go to New York, I know the subways, I know the lines, I can use those. And I don't need to like wait 7 Ubers canceling me. So I mean that's the New York NFT New York in a nutshell. For everyone, it's like terrific. Like you need to go to an this event or that event. You cannot be everywhere. It's yeah, like it should be like more condensed in my opinion as well.
Welcome to New York, Merv. You sound traumatized. I'm so sorry that was your experience. I honestly don't know what's worse, the New York or Miami Art Week, where it's like the bridge situation. I did, for the very first time in probably 10 years, take the subway. I do live in New York, for those that maybe don't know. But yeah, it was, there's also, I don't know, issues with the trains and like construction and delays. And then I have Trevor and Violet from Scotland sending me like crazy videos of New York City subways. So I don't know. I wouldn't have taken the trains either, Merv. I know why you Ubered. But yeah, I think that's definitely overall in general. I think the one event that Marfa, for example, is a great one where we don't have to worry about that, and we really experience the difference. I do think it's a little unavoidable unless people really start making the effort to really coordinate, and whether it's scheduling, but also locations, making sure that they're in the same vicinities. Like I understand there's also a lot of like New York based artists that host things in Brooklyn, but it is difficult. Like unless it's a one day that everyone's in Brooklyn, it's super difficult to kind of try to split the crowd like that. So I'm with you. I'm so sorry that was your first ever New York experience. That's not fun. I remember it being a very rainy and like cold, wasn't really that enjoyable, the weather for
Not
majority.
even mentioning
Yeah,
those.
yeah, it was pretty like stormy, dark, cold, very cold for April as well. So I'm sorry to hear. That being said, to bring it to more of a positive and happier note, and I'm super bummed I missed this event, but I know Paper Boot is on stage, and I know he hosted a pretty dope Blunts and Brunch. So let's bring the vibe back up, and maybe we can have Paper talk a little bit about what he was hosting here in New York for us.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. New York was great. I absolutely love New York. I think this is my fourth year in a row. And yeah, it was excellent. One of the highlights for me was FDOT held an open studio over in Brooklyn. Throughout that week, I had a chance to really build a relationship with him, got to see his work, a one-on-one piece of his exhibited at Lumi, and then met him at his open studio and ended up collecting a one-on-one from him. And really, that was kind of a kickoff to a really beautiful relationship between the two of us. So definitely huge highlight meeting FDOT. And then the other highlight was, hosting my event, Blunts and Brunch, which I usually do since 2020. We've been doing that at every major NFT event. So during this NFT NYC, some of you guys know that in my professional life, I work in legal cannabis. And so this was really my first bridging of those two worlds of cannabis and art. And so some of my friends uh, have a dispensary in Midtown that's the old Nat Sherman Cigar Lounge. So that's where you would see Trump and Giuliani going in and smoking their cigars and talking about, we're going to take over New York, right? That's like what they used to do. The homies came in, they got an equity license because they had both served time for cannabis related crime. They got preferential treatment for a license. They took over that building, converted it to a dispensary with a speakeasy underneath. And so we did our blunts and brunch in the speakeasy, where we had Creatress perform live VR art, which is really cool. If you haven't seen it, I posted up her kind of recap of the event. She was my co-host for that one, which was great. We had a bunch of people doing dabs and smoking weed in front of Trump's old locker, kind of a big fuck you to the system. Just really having fun with it and displaying a lot of cool art and creating a vibe, creating a place, again, low audio, so we're not shouting over DJs, kind of more adult time, if you will, where people can sit around, get recharged, have a good conversation. I think at the end of the day, all of us come to these events because we do want to leave with a stronger network, having made great connections, something that will kind of, if you will, put gas in the tank until the next event. So it's important for me to curate those kind of spaces, right? I love partying. I'm a 45-year-old dude. I've done that shit for 35 years. You know what I mean? There's a time and a place. And so will I get down and go to Beyond Basel? Absolutely. Will I hang out there for 8 hours? Probably not. I'm going to make a cameo for an hour, hour and a half and get out. So every time I can create an event like that's high value networking, shout out to Brunch by Fidel. That's another, brunch, probably a good place to network. Gonna throw that out there. Blunts and Brunch by Fidel. These are great places to make connections. So yeah, very blessed to have thrown that event. We were able to give out goodie bags and lots of art to the people that came through. And yeah, I'll wait until we talk about the next event. But New York was amazing. I loved it. The weather was super rough. It was torrential when we got in. We got in a couple days early. We stayed up in Latin Harlem and pretty much rained in for their first couple of days. One of our guys that was coming in from our community got delayed a bunch of times. So once we got there, once the tsunami passed, it was great. We had a blast. So very grateful for everyone in New York.
Speaking of which, I say that we move NFT NYC to May when you don't have April showers and it's warmer. Damn it. There's not much going on in May anyways. I'm looking at my chart here. We had the Beeple Digital Art Death Match, which we'll talk about soon. But before we do that, I just want to second PB's comment there about networking. His Blunts and Brunch there, they're always awesome. That one stole the show to me. That location was out of this world. I was literally there watching in between the two lockers you were just referring to, Giuliani and Trump, and people dabbing, and that did not look real at all, but it was super cool. And Paper Buddha mentions this often, but you don't have to partake in the blunts part. You can just brunch as I do. See, I smoke, but I'm like Bill Clinton. I don't inhale. Okay, so I show up and I look the part and I put it in my mouth. I take a toke, but then I exhale without breathing any in. No psychoactive substances for me. No, I kid. But it's a great place to network and see those beautiful performances like Creatress, like Addabody. So definitely go check those out if you haven't done so. There's a bunch of different venues. Sometimes they're parks like we most recently did in Basel. So got to give you some more praises before we jump. But I'm looking at the time, Vasia, and we've got 13 minutes to cover half of a year. So we'll have to dot the map a little bit faster moving forward. If you don't mind, I'm going to jump real quickly to May, where we did have the digital art death match. And I believe we've got a pin tweet. I got It's Parrot, the homie. He was in the final 8. And I just wanted to touch on the Beeple Studios. If you haven't been to Beeple Studios, do yourself a favor and go. I know PB can speak to this as well. So can Vasia. She was at the grand opening. And they, not only is it just a fantastic location, it's huge, it's ginormous. There's so much to see and do in there. You really can't do it all in one visit. But not only that, they've really enhanced the invites around the event itself. So now you have a brunch. We've been talking about how nice brunch is for networking. They have a brunch the day after the event. The day before the event, they have a dinner. And now they have not one but two events. It used to just be a night event. The grand opening was one night event from 8 to 12. Now they have an event from 12 to 4 and then from 8 to 12. So they had some of the preliminary rounds during the day event, and then we got to see the final showdown at night. In between that short interim, they actually made a giant, what looked like a movie poster of I believe it was down to 8 finalists at the evening event. So do yourself a favor and go to Charleston. It's also a very charming southern city, easy to navigate, not very big. Although the venue itself is a bit far out of town. It's about 25-minute drive from King Street, where all the action is, but very easy to navigate. There's not much traffic there. It's small. It's kind of quaint little town. But go and see the digital art death match. There was a guy named Josh Brockett who, again, he was inspired by Beeple. Everydays, he's been doing Everydays now for 3 years, and it shows. He is very reminiscent of Beeple himself, but his scale that he builds into his artwork is top notch, and it shows. So this was a popular vote. It was a really cool way to actually pick the winner. It was a popular vote on Twitter. So there would be 4 people going head to head, and Twitter, A, B, C, D votes would decide who made it to the next round. I thought that was a phenomenal event. And if you didn't make that one, then you had a chance to go to Pepe Fest, which we'll talk about here very soon. But in between that, we were in NFC Lisbon. A lot of the people in the room with me here were in NFC Lisbon, and this is still the reigning champion in my book of my very favorite event for multiple reasons. The event itself is absolutely amazing. It's so well produced. We love John Karp and Greta, as we mentioned. They did such a great job of combining 5 components this year. So not many conferences go to great lengths to try and mix so many parties into one. And you can see where that would be a flop, but they did it well. They have the main event, which is very art focused. There's screens everywhere, giant ones at that. Then there's MemeCon, which I got to take a part in on behalf of Turbo. And that was a total shit show, which was supposed to be very, very funny. The moderator is quite the comedian. He had us rolling. I think everybody left my speech confused, happy, and hopefully a little bit richer. Trevor is raising his hands on that. I'm going to get to him after I name the 5 components. There were ordinals there. There was the Red Carpet AI Film Festival, and there's a badass beach party to cap off that event. So they do those 5 very, very well. I don't know how they do it, but they've got some good team members on hand that helped them accomplish that feat. But Trevor's got his hands up. I know he was there in the crowd. He also was on stage twice at the ordinals and the main stage. So I'll let him chime in. Trevor, all you.
Milton, it's an honor to be here with you. I just want to say that, first off, Merry Christmas, belated. Happy New Year early. And I love you guys very much.
Yeah, sorry, I had to drop out because Trevor had audio from my phone and I didn't want to go to another room. So I'm still here.
Yeah, that's my wife, by the way. Anyway, yeah, the MemeCon was hilarious. I'm going to say, like, I actually, probably, to be honest, the only reason why I actually shifted a bunch of Bitcoin into Dogecoin was entirely because of you, Milton. I would have probably put more into Pepe, but I didn't. However, and maybe a bit of Peanut, but I didn't. I kicked myself for it. Anyway, it was an amazing, amazing conference. That I agree with you entirely that that Lisbon is probably the best conference of all. And I just want to say, like, it's an absolute pleasure to be there with you guys. You guys killed me. Man, I have not laughed so much. I literally, for like 90 minutes, I was crying. I was like, Violet and I were like going like, what the heck is happening? We're like we don't take mushrooms, but if we did, this would be where we are right now, because it was hilarious. We could not stop cracking up. You guys were brilliant on stage. You and I can't remember what the host's name was, but I mean,
The guy with the big head.
the guy with the giant
David
head.
Gersh.
Oh
David
my God.
Gersh.
He is amazing.
Oh, and the guy with
The African village man, king.
to make everybody millionaire at the end.
Oh, he was brilliant.
He was hilarious as
It's
well.
like
He was a meme coin himself.
you talk about community. It's like those kind of events actually make a skeptic like me going, maybe I'll put a little bit of Bitcoin into some of this shite. But it was hilarious. So I want to thank you for actually introducing me to like a whole new world.
Oh, you got it, man. Yeah, so that's the whole point of memes is to be fun. You're either laughing at the community or laughing how fast you've lost money. One of the two. On occasion, you strike it rich if you're like Dogecoin fam in the crowd. You pick the right one. It ain't easy to do. I'm telling you here, folks, right here, right now. My portfolio shows it today. But yes, I'm glad that you guys got to visit. It was so funny to see some what seemed to be serious questions fielded and just turn into chaos within 30 seconds. And I thought that was the proper way to actually host the meme con. So I was excited. That was fun. But please, yeah, do yourself a favor too. Visit Lisbon. Your biggest expense is probably getting there. Once you get there, Lisbon is very cheap and that city is absolutely gorgeous. And Trevor, in particular, loves their cherry wine liqueur, the Gingina. So I would recommend you try that too. He's laughing. He might have had one too
Please,
many.
please stop. Please stop. Please stop. Like, I mean, I actually had to go. I'm going to tell you something really important right now. Literally just today, I got some test results back from the hospital about my kidneys, my liver, and my thyroid because I was worried after the whole thing with you and you. I'm going to be honest with you. You actually scared me what you did to my liver. And I got the results back today and they're all good and natural and everything's above. And Violet's now super happy. She's like, oh, no, I'm actually going to be married for a little bit longer. You know, hard art didn't kill my husband, but I'm looking forward to next year and I will not drink that cherry liqueur. Maybe.
We'll see about that. All right, so you're back to normal. Now it's time to break you back down again. That's good. Glad you got those positive test results back. Again, I'm gonna have to look at the clock here. I'm a poor time manager, so I got 6 minutes to cover the rest of the year. I'm gonna hop through these.
Milton, let me
Real
just
real
very
quick, touch on
quickly.
transient labs. Yeah,
Yeah.
Vasia, jump in for that one because that was a standout.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to comment with NFC Lisbon. I just find it so refreshing as well that it's like the representation of our entire ecosystem. Like there is the meme coins, the art component, the ordinals, and just seeing them, bring it all together in one conference at such a high production level is awesome. And, seeing people also talk, we didn't even mention the main stage where how good the visuals there are as well. Trevor was speaking on stage. You had a performance. Una was there. There was a bunch that I obviously can't list everybody, but it was just really nice and refreshing seeing everyone come together under one roof. And Merv, I'm going to hand you the mic in a sec to talk more about what Transient Labs did, but I'm very excited and grateful that as Moments, we had just launched during NFT NYC in April, and Transient Labs brought Moments along the ride for this activation. So we got to activate with you guys at NFC. We brought Gabe Weiss along for the in-person activation. And yeah, I just had a blast. So very grateful that that was our first time together. Merv, if you really quickly maybe want to talk about the activation and then we can kind of run through very quick the last few events.
Yeah, I know we have lost like 3 minutes or so. I don't know. So it was amazing. I mean, I remember how I tried to convince the team to go to Lisbon because the 2023, yeah, 2023 was my first year, and we met with Milton there. It's a whole different story, and it was the best event I've ever been. So I tried to convince the team that, guys, we have to be there no matter what, but we have to be there. And thanks to Vasia and Gabe, it like turns you into like a real show. We were just expecting to do an exhibition, but with the Gabe and Wasia's contribution, it like returns into a real event itself in the event, to be honest. So I always appreciate you with your all the help and everything with the Lisbon.
Vasia, and touch on what you did there because you're handing the mic. You're being way too modest. You produced a fantastic event. And
Exactly.
and I took part, and I'm so happy that I did. And I got three pieces for what I feel like was the price of one with Gabe Weiss. Touch on that briefly, and we'll dot the other couple too, because we just covered the other two in our most recent episodes, so we can really quickly jump on those. But give yourself some flowers for once, damn it. Tell us what you did with Gabe.
Thank you, Milton. Yeah, it was awesome. It was cool. So one of the things that I definitely pay attention to when activating, especially during a conference or an event week where there's so much going on, it's really about how do we create something memorable, more of an experience so that when people walk away, you want to make sure that they remember your brand, your activation, your whatever you did, right? And so we had the ability to to work with Transient Labs. They had these 4 major, huge screens where we were exhibiting artwork from a bunch of different artists that Merv and the team curated. And we had one specific area where Gabe was creating live. And if you know Gabe Weiss, he's a character, he loves to engage and interact and is constantly, whether it's at VCon or any kind of event, he's been drawing on my sneakers for a bunch of different events. He's drawing on little postcards and giving them out. And we did one where he was essentially sitting down with the collectors that chose to participate. You minted it live on the spot, and you got a one-of-one portrait done by Gabe, and it was a bit more of an interactive. So he was doing it live on the iPad. You got to work with him, whether it was, adding Milton's pit vipers to the portrait or getting to pick the color scheme, and it was just getting that, again, experience with the artist. We wanted to make sure it wasn't a factory type of let's rush you out kind of experience. It really was like sit down, have a conversation. Gabe took his time and really made sure to build that relationship with all the collectors. And purchasing that original and minting that first portrait unlocked access to 2 more. So the second NFT that everyone got airdropped after the event was a community piece. So we essentially took everyone's portraits, collaged them all together, and that was the second mint. And then it also gave everyone access to a print as well, I believe. So Milton, I got to give you kudos, my dude. You've been to all these different conferences and you remember all of the details as to what happened. My memory isn't as great, but I do believe that's what it was. It was mint 1 and you get access to all 3. So it was a very cool experience, I think, for collectors as well. Thank you. You just pinned it up top. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, it was just, again, about creating the experiences, making sure art was at the forefront and making sure it was just something a little bit different and memorable. So thank you. I know Dogecoin fam down below, she participated. Milton, of course, you also did, and a couple of others. So I just want to say thank you for participating and always supporting. And more importantly, we just had a bunch of fun. So Merv, thank you to the team for just bringing us in for this activation.
Yeah, y'all killed it as a team. I love to see you guys team up to make that happen. Also, Paper Buddha was on display in that lovely lounge there, and they were serving free cocktails too. All you had to do was give them your email. So I came up with 47 emails, and I was feeling fine.
You're incredible.
No, you guys killed it. You guys killed it. And again, looking at the time, luckily we did cover the last few in the most recent episode. So I'm really just going to touch on them briefly. But obviously, we got to make it over to Beeple Election Night. We made it to Beeple Pepe Fest. In November, we had Marfa and Art Blocks, which is a super special event. I could dote on that all day, but I won't. And then we just got done with Miami Art Week, where I think it's a great time to transition the discussion because the first event that I attended was produced by Black Dove Art and Maker's Place. And there was a great panel room there where I got to see one of my good friends, Roger Dickerman, step in the building and give a great speech about the state of digital art. And he... Thank
And
you. Thank you,
he's here.
soundboard. And he's here, and he's here. See how we're doing this segue? It's perfect timing, perfect timing. But if you don't know Roger, I'm going to give him a brief intro and we'll have him up on stage. Roger has been an integral figure in our industry since 2020 as a digital art enthusiast, collector, advisor, community builder, and probably most well known for his relentless dedication to documenting the market dynamics of digital art and publishing his 24 hours of art reports day in, day out for more than a year now, and fostering a thriving tokenized community on top of that. So hot off his own 24-hour X Space recapping 2024, we have the pleasure of hosting Roger Dickerman with us today. Looking forward to passing him the mic. GM Roger, how you doing?
GM, what's good, everybody? Packed stage, packed event. After the holidays, before the new year, I don't know. It feels like a nice, cozy spot.
Let's go, man. So I assume you've caught up on what I call sleep debt, which is what I'm usually in after these events we just covered. But you had to be in some serious sleep debt. That would be a 2 days essentially of sleep debt that you were without. So tell us how you caught up on that and recap your X Space. Just give us the lowdown. I know you had tons of great guests. Some of them are here on stage with us, like Alejandro, like Steven, but maybe give us a highlight or two, even from that 24 hours space that you hosted.
Man, it was fun. So to go back first, if you don't know about it, you might be wondering why the hell would I do it? It started as a joke. The 24 Hours of Art brand, for those not originally familiar, when I started to host events, people would say, wait, you're really doing a 24-hour event. And I'd say, oh no, that's just a brand. But then many people started to ask the same question, and then I started to make it a joke. Yeah, we'll do that one day. We'll do a 24-hour show. And then I started to say, yeah, we'll do it at the end of the year, thinking like the end of the year will never come. Well, it came, and we held to our word, and we did it. But here's the funny thing in prep for this show. We were doing so much behind the scenes to prep for 2025 that I lost the reins on the show. I mean, there were 40 guests as it was, and there were probably another 140 that I would have loved to have. And at some point, Ben Strauss and Transient and I, we were in the weeds of the other side of everything, and I just gave it up. I just said, all right, we're rolling with what we got. Let's just go do it. And it was really, I just moved into an office as well. It was like literally arranging the room 30 minutes prior to the show start, and then there we go. And I wouldn't change a thing. And have I caught up on sleep? I'm in that phase right now where every day you wake up and you realize you're more rested than the day before. So the answer is probably no.
Yeah, well, I know you wake up at 4 a.m. regardless of whether you've stayed up all night to get your reports out. And this one, you had the convenience of being able to do your live 24 hours of art while you're on the space. I know you've started that trend also on Telegram. It's interesting to listen into you as you're doing it. Nobody really understood how you did it without 50 AI agents, but it turns out you just do it by your damn self, which is quite impressive, I must say. And I'm going to pass the mic to Trevor because, like you, doing something, producing something that started as a joke, that's how the castle party started, if you know Trevor's story. So this will be a good time to hand the mic over to Trevor. How you doing, Trevor?
I'm good. Yes, actually, that's a good segue as well. But yeah, the castle party also started as a joke. But I just want to say, like, Roger, now that you did the 24 hours, which was amazing. Thanks for inviting us on, and Violet as well.
Thank you, Roger.
She just said, yelled out. It was crazy, and I think it's amazing, and you need to do it again. But that was 2024. Next year is 2025, which means 25 hours of art. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. 25 hours. It's synced up by the year now. Imagine
See, now, Trevor, I thought you were
28.
just going to say run it back, and then you're going to escalate it to 25.
No,
You know what?
the stars have aligned.
You know what, though? I can commit to that. And here's why. What I realized after running the 24-hour spaces is I couldn't have gone to sleep if I wanted to. And in fact, I was responding to some people's messages, and they're like, what do you do? You're awake? Like, what is this? What kind of a joke is this? I said I just couldn't. I couldn't pull the plug until about 7:30, 8 o'clock that night.
It's amazing. And the fact that you actually, I think you're like 22 hours when you were hanging out with me and Violet. And like, I mean, you looked fresher than we were. It was crazy. So I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to push this, and maybe in 10 years from now, 36 hours of art. And and we will be there with you at the beginning or the end. I'm not sure, but you started this, and I love you for it. And Roger, you, as I've said many times, you are the hardest working man in the space. So it's been an honor to hang out with you, and I look forward to next year. Here's to 2025. Speaking of, Violet and I, we're just finished dinner. It's late here, so we're going to chill out, watch a movie, and we love you guys very much. Milton, Vasia, honestly, you guys are the best. Alejandro, Stephen, Merve, Paper Buddha, Deconstruct Plotsky, Abrahani, yet it's like there's a great room here. Love you all so much, and it's been an amazing year. So love you. Gonna leave you. Talk to you soon.
Trevor and Violet, and you guys are together, so thank you so much for taking the time for joining. Would have it no other way to end out the year, and thank you so much for just all the different experiences, because we've been all over the world together as well this last year. It's been a lot of traveling, a lot of working together with your ordinals collection, with everything that you've been doing, Trevor. So just thank you for giving Milton and I the opportunity. Definitely a huge highlight of our 2024, and cannot wait to see what 25 has in store. Enjoy the movie, enjoy your night. Roger, I also very quickly want to obviously say thank you so much for taking the time for joining us, for congratulations on doing the 24 hours. Ignore Trevor, by the way. You definitely don't have to push to anything more than the 24 hours. But yeah, just amazing all the work that you're doing for the community. And I do believe you originally launched the 24 hours of art like token with Transient Labs this in 2024. So maybe for those that aren't as familiar, do you want to quickly just touch upon the brand and what you've been building for those that aren't familiar, just to set the stage?
Yeah, absolutely. So the roots, and thank you, Vas. I appreciate that. And you were going back to the NFT NYC event where you were launching. We got to have a brunch together. It was amazing spending the time and just seeing you take what you do to a whole new level. So I don't want to. I'd be remiss to not mention that. Um, yeah. So 24 Hours of Art started in. I call it the baby of the bear. It was the middle of 2023. I was FAFOing and figuring out if anyone else cared about this style of reporting that I had done for myself effectively for 3 years prior. And I put it out there the first day, and it got a strong reception. And at the time, so Mando had just put out his TLDR on broader crypto, and I wanted something on art. And at the time, there was no real singular art resource, nothing that was carving out a lane specifically for art, not sort of commingling it with everything else, which I thought, listen, everything else is great, but this needs to happen. And so that's the roots of it. The end of the year, yes, teamed up with Transient Labs and obviously the great Justin Wetch, artist and technical wizard in his own right, to get more serious with the concept and to birth 2024. We created a token per day. That was our concept, and that ushered in the 24 hours of our collective. So every day, and I see so many people here, CC hi, Jordan hi, so amazing to see you all. So every day we wake up, the report would happen, it would go out to the public, and then we would sort of design a cover page, and then we would reveal that artwork later in the day. And then the person who owned that day of their token would see their token update from a blank canvas to a full artwork. And actually, I see Jordan, you posted about this the other day. You have one of the most amazing ones of the year. It was an all-in Joe Pease day. We've had only 2 of those in the calendar year 2024. So that was a special one. And so that's the collective. So each collective member possesses that, and we hang out in a Telegram and have a good old time. Now, the question for 2025 was, well, would we do that again? And the answer is kind of, right? So decision number 1 was saying, well, we don't want to just do another 365 because that would effectively double the size of our group, which I think is a special group. And so that was a decision there, said, okay, we were not going to do it that way. And so instead, we're only adding 24 tokens, to the core collection. And those are the patrons of the year. That's kind of another topic, which, poke around where you're interested. But then we would reveal a new concept, and that is where our subscription model comes in. So the 2025 subscription token, it kind of allows everybody to participate in daily reveals. And so every subscription token is dynamic in nature, and it updates 365 times. It updates every single day of 2025 in real time. So that's why I said kind of. So yes, we're still reporting every day. Yes, we're still creating an ART every day, but that's the difference in mechanic. So every subscriber for 2025 gets access to token gated reports. You can have those emailed to you if you like, and you have the dynamic art token. It's updated 365 times. And then when 2025 is over, and yes, it will eventually be over, which is crazy to think, but a year from now, it will hit its final form, and the token will continue to show you what happened on the anniversary of every day, and have a couple cool dynamic Easter eggs where you can rotate a little quicker among the artworks if you want to.
I just pinned it up top for those that maybe were not familiar and want to check it out. But Roger, just to clarify, this is still available to mint, right? People can still go ahead and pick one up.
Yes, absolutely. So, obviously nothing has happened yet in 2025. So I think it's still a great time. Obviously would love to have you aboard the subscription side. So the answer is you'll be able to pick it up at any time of the year. This will stay open in 2025. And you can kind of look at it like 2 facets, right? You have your subscription functionality, which is just clear utility, right? That's how the full reports will be distributed. And again, you can access it through the website or via email. And then the other side's the art and a little surprise and delight. So we'll do a few cool things. Let's just put it that way at various points of the year. And so we don't look at this as a static subscriber base. And so for those members, for those people who have been part of the collective and seen some of the fun things that we've done in there, we'll apply some of the same surprise and delight here. And I feel we have a great model to keep both groups in mind. So I think the collective is going to stay very, very special. And I think subscribers are going to be very, very happy.
Can I shout out the real world component, RD, that you host these events and that there's community events all across the world? Like I had the pleasure of going to 3 or 4 of them this year.
Please do, PB, and love you, man. You've been part of it since day -1, so please take it wherever you'd like.
No, that was it. I was just gonna say that it's a very, very strong group, very diverse group that ranges from artists to collectors, well known and kind of behind the scenes. And they've been again, surprise, surprise, these brunches, these get-togethers that involve food, involve a lot of networking and high value networking. So, it's been great for me, my personal network. I've gotten to really strengthen relationships, develop some really great connections with new collectors like Seth Dubb, Stephen Miller, somebody that entered my ecosystem this year, all because of 24 Hours of Art, and to really see the level of support, not only online, but as it translates out into the real world. It's very wholesome. So I just want to shout you out.
Thank you, man. I know you know a thing or two about physical events, so thanks again, PB.
Thanks, Paper, for mentioning that. And honestly, anything that Roger's a part of and putting out there, I feel like you attract such a wonderful community. And absolutely what Paper said, like that network and all of it, it's something that everyone should kind of want to participate and be a part of and get as close to as possible. Roger, I don't know if Milton prepared you with some questions, but I did want to, obviously, as we're talking about 2024 year in review, we're all here for the art at the end of the day. And who better to kind of lead us off in the conversation? I wanted to see if there was anything that you wanted to maybe highlight as a year in review, whether it's sales or artists or anything that might have happened that you think is important to just rewind, bring our memory and attention to as we kind of kick off the conversation from more of the art lens.
Yeah, I would love that. And so what I tend to do at the end of the year, no surprise, is think about it, right? Think about it from January 1st all the way to the end. Stephen Miller and I had a chance, what's up, Steve? Had a chance to dive into what we call work in progress, like a quarterly review. And so we naturally got into some of those yearly weeds. So how I'm thinking about it today, I think it's a very interesting year because much of the year is still what a lot of people will call an art bear, but I think an effective question has been raised, right? Are we going to see an art bull? What form will it take? Um, and I think the answer is nobody knows. We can all speculate, we can all guess. But I think the most productive and pragmatic statement that I've heard and I champion coming out of this is control what you can control. That whether the art climate stays more difficult, it's not a bad thing. Nothing's supposed to be easy, I promise. It's not a bad thing. Control what you can control. Even if this is the current climate, you still see bright areas, bright spots, opportunities for quality to rise, opportunities to get engagement even in the hardest of times around your art. So control what you can control. That's my first pragmatic statement there. But let's look back to look forward. Where do we actually stand? Well, when we opened the calendar year 2024, we saw a couple strong releases out of the gate. That was when Claire Silver released Corporal Real. That was when Pindar Van Arman released Reflections. After those two releases, from a primary standpoint, the art market really flatlined outside of, yes, he's here, I'm not just puffing his feathers up, but outside of Fellowship. I think Fellowship remained one of those beacons of if something's going on there that's large scale, you probably want to pay attention. And I would say they had, more or less a quarterly event to pay attention to, maybe a few more than that, but I'm talking about like those monstrous ones, right? But outside of that, the primary art market was really tough for the span of a number of months. Now, as we got closer to November and into December, we saw that begin to change for the potential better. And we saw some primary one-of-one sales that were very interesting. We saw obviously the big Joe P's with Glitch release. We saw the big Echo at No Surprise Fellowship, right? That release. So we saw a number of things begin to happen at a more rapid pace in that Art Basel-ish timeframe. And that paired with a tremendous amount, the most secondary activity that we'd seen on Ethereum specifically. We had that ordinal surge back in March. I think it was March, give or take. We had that ordinal surge in the beginning of the year. We had this ETH surge sort of in this December-ish timeframe. And now we've taken a huge step back and a breather, but that's expected. It's the holidays, right? So that doesn't really tell us anything one way or another. I just think it's fascinating to look back at it that way. We saw the beginning of the year with a few primary highlights. Then we saw an ordinal surge. Then we kind of saw quiet, quiet, quiet. We saw a huge pickup and surge, and then now we take our holiday breather. What does it all mean? Well, I mean, I guess it goes back to my original statement. I don't know, and I promise neither do you. We can speculate till the cows come home, but like control what you can control.
I love that. Control what you can control. I think that's very applicable to many aspects of life. But yeah, thank you, Roger, for breaking it down. And I know you mentioned fellowship. Alejandro is on stage. Thank you, Alejandro, for joining us. If there's anything that you want to also just jump in and add about this year, and first of all, congratulations on all the accomplishments and success, and pleasure meeting you down in Mexico and seeing the nice aunties. We were talking about it earlier. I don't know if you caught it, but we did highlight that, and you guys have been keeping it extremely busy. And congratulations as well with what you recently had exhibited with carpoolers. And I know you had it with Steven down in Miami. So would love to have you join and maybe bring up a couple of things that you guys were doing over at Fellowship this year.
Yeah, thank you guys for the invite, and such a pleasure and honor to be with all these builders and people that have become friends and promoters and and survivors of this space. Yeah, 2024 was kind of a miracle, unexpected. It was very hard to get through. But in the end, and something that I've talked with Roger a lot about is no compromise. Like, we go for the best artists, the best art. We don't, we're not looking for, oh, what can we sell just to get by? It's like, no, no, no. What is out there that gets us excited? First of all, as collector, because whole fellowship team is, we're a bunch of collectors that we love art. We would love to buy art, and we love to see art that asks us questions and makes us see the world differently. So no compromise. That was 2024. It was, we're gonna strive to look for the best art that we can find, try to work with the best artists that we can find, and push ourselves, and hopefully that will result in something that people pay attention to. Because, oh my God, the amount of, I mean, Roger, you were kind. The amount of silence in 2024 was overwhelming. So that was the big bet, quality and very, very thoughtful collection launches. And the proof is in the pudding. It worked. Somehow it miraculously worked, and we can't you know thank enough the whole community who has backed us, the collectors that keep coming back and see that we're committed and that we're trying to bring quality projects to the space, and they keep coming back and say, yes, we'll keep supporting these artists and these projects. So I don't know what I'm saying now. I'm rambling. Basically, thankful for surviving 2024, and thankful for the community that has building around fellowship and the artists and the projects that we've launched.
No compromise. I think that's also a very great life lesson. Like, keep them standards high, don't compromise. I think that's also what the bear market brings out. It really pushes all of us to, bring out the serious players. And Alejandro, it's so evident in just your voice. You can hear the passion. So congratulations again on the success. I don't know if there's any specific projects, artists, collections that you want to shout out, anything that you want to quickly just highlight from the last year?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we started with, let's say, the aftermath of the release of Align Draw, which was released in December 2023, and kind of the silence of like, wait a minute, this project is so important for thinking of how the creation of images is going to change moving forward, text to image. And we were like, okay, there's a small community forming, and but it was kind of silent. But then things started to happen. We saw museum acquisitions, and we saw a big acquisitions from some collectors like Seed Phrase, and we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. And that kind of like had us excited about what might happen in 2024. Then we took a leap of faith and we released that huge collection by Nice Aunties in in February. And honestly, that was super exciting to release. I got to meet nice aunties in Mexico City. We presented her work at the Sonamaco Art Fair and have the release at the same time. I mean, that was a really special event for me. It really showed me how you can work in Web3 and yet still have impact in the traditional art space. And it was amazing to see how her work was having impact at the fair and people were responding to it. And at the same time, the auctions were happening in Web3. And it was like, wow, this is the dream come true where you have, different communities engaging with the work of an artist and it's seamlessly coming from print form, from in real life, and in the NFT space. And I think that if you look at the rest of the year for us, a lot of the releases that we did have that dual component, and it's really shown to be effective, where you have a community of collectors who are interested in the physical aspect of the artworks, and you have the people who are interested in the NFT part of the artworks. And we did it again with Holly and Matt's work in Art Basel, in the Art Mile fair, and that was amazing. Also, and again, a leap of faith. We didn't know what was going to happen. It was, I think, the slowest time of the market. Roger, you can correct me if not, but the summer, June, July, August felt like nothing was moving, and yet we were able to place 1,000 pieces privately with so many loving and caring collectors that saw the importance of their project. Then I would jump to the Baltron Vault of Wonders project, which was an amazing project. Also, they created their custom AI model, created these digital like animals, pets, and people fell in love with them. And again, it was miraculous that we were able to place those 1,000 pieces with the community. From there, we had the closing of the daily program. For those who don't know what that is, for 1 year, we kind of foresaw how text to image was having such an impact in art starting late 2022 into 2023. And then there were like glimmers that AI video, text to video was something that was about to like explode. And we created a cohort of around 137 artists from around the world. And we told them, go out there, produce your videos, produce your art, record yourself talking about what the art is about, what the technical aspects that you're dealing with, the experiments, and let's auction those pieces every day for a whole year. And crazy, it worked. About 3,500 videos were auctioned for a whole year. All of them were sold. All of them were found at home with collectors. But the beauty of that project was that you saw from the very rudimentary AI video that was being done in 2023 to the super sophisticated AI video with Sora, with Kling that was being done in 2024. So in one single smart contract, you see the evolution of AI video in the most important year of its evolution through the voices of 137 artists. That is crazy. Like that is, we were thinking always you see these histories of art, it takes 10 years, 20 years to people to like see those evolutions or to pay attention. Here we were doing it on the blockchain on one smart contract. That was like a no-brainer, and super excited to be part of a team that was doing that and to work with 137 artists doing crazy stuff, doing whatever they wanted. And that was closed in October. So that was 1 year of the daily program. And then our last big project was Echoes Latent Ink, which is the merging of two big communities, the AI community, the generative art community, by someone who has such a sophisticated understanding of generative art, of coding, and has been doing digital art for so many years. And the people loved it. And I mean, the artwork speaks for itself. If you haven't seen it, definitely go see it on our website on daily.xyz or on OpenSea. It's a beautiful body of work, and Echo took it to the next level. We put in a little bit of salt and pepper on that, and helped him push more and more the collection. Something that was interesting with that project was that we were working for almost 5 months with him, and I remember talking to him and him thinking about how this was the first time that he was able to like do a project, have a mirror, like a curatorial support where he's pushing the algorithm one way and then getting support and feedback, and then modifying that and going another place, but not abandoning those experiments, but including them within the same collection. And that was very innovative, in like a new thing for him. It was about going to an edge, keeping the best results from there, and then going to another edge, to another edge. So in reality, you're looking at, I don't know, like 20 or 30 different aspects that he was thinking about, all condensed into one project. And I think that's what resonated with so many collectors, is that there's something for everybody, right? There's very abstract, very like deep explorations about space, about perspective. Then you have a little bit of like figurative pieces in there. Then you have something that is in the color fields area. You have all these different flavors within one collection, but always with Echo's idea backing it. And that was the end of the year, and honestly, completely overwhelmed by the support from the collector community, from the artists that spoke out about the work. That was also beautiful to witness. And that's 2024. Yeah, on a beautiful high, honestly.
Hey, I wanted to jump in, Alejandro. I think what you said earlier was very accurate as far as being able to see the transition. Obviously, this space is moving at breakneck speed. And when I actually stumbled upon, I didn't know you were going to be at Zona Mako and have fellowship on display, but I'm glad that I ran into you. And I can recall vividly walking by the Align Draw, which, if you don't know any better, looks a lot like nothing. It looks pixelated and it's not very distinct. But once you know what the heck you're looking at, then you realize how impressive that actually is. You were saying that that Align Draw collection was released in 2023. I wanted you to have the audience informed here when that was actually created, because I believe that text to image technology was brand new when Elmon created that project. So I wanted you to answer that for me. But I also just wanted to give you praise because you could see from a line draw, then all of a sudden to nice aunties at the other end of the spectrum, or Rupe Renisto at the other end of the spectrum, how fast and how advanced AI technology has become. And it's just a great reflection of the world at large today, because AI is at the top of mind share, whether it's in digital art, or if you've held NVIDIA stock, you're probably smiling all the way to the bank. Or if you even have meme coins, Zero Bro, Goat, Fart Coin, they literally are at the top right now. They have absolutely exploded. So it is a nice mirror on the world at large. But yeah, can you touch briefly on when that
Sure.
Align Draw started? Kind of what turned you on to that? How did you discover that? And then how are
Sure.
you finding these artists along the way? Because you said that you're hand picking them very carefully to make sure you're getting the creme de la creme artists. What is that process
Yeah.
like? Because I know you're very discerning when it comes to that as well.
Sure. So let's touch on a line draw first. 2022. We kind of, the whole, like the fellowship team, we saw something happening in terms of image creation with text to image. And it was specifically Roper Reinisto, his work that he was releasing on Foundation in October, November of 2022. We started buying that work, and we just saw something so unique, so special that we said we need to open up a branch within fellowship that focuses on AI. And part of, and this is my upbringing as an artist. I started my career working at a museum, then an art like a photography archive, and I've seen, like, through that experience, I saw how images, like documents, archives, are dormant. There are thousands, hundreds of, like, millions of images that are just sitting in archives, physically, digitally, and they are waiting to be repurposed in terms of what they mean and why they were created. And so when we were trying to build this branch for fellowship that, you know, was going to focus on AI, my instincts was, where did this come from? Like, how the hell did we get here? And I went a deep dive, and I started researching projects that, started in 2014, 2015. And a line draw was one that was being mentioned here and there in videos and in papers. I was like, oh my God, what is this? And, it was such a simple concept that now has become everyday. You have an algorithm at that time, you have an algorithm that when you showed it an image, it could label the description of what that image was. So if you showed it an image of a balloon, it would say, this is an image of a red balloon, yada, yada. And Elman thought, well, can I give it the description and can it create the image from my description? And you think about that, that's revolutionary. We had never, ever seen that happen before. And he tested his algorithm and he gave it these weird prompts, and it created 32 by 32 pixel images that looked like nothing, but in some of the pieces you discern the prompt is actually effective on the image level, like a red stop sign floating in the sky, and you see the blue canvas with a red blob in the middle, and that's where he understood that the algorithm was actually working. And he released that paper, an academic paper, back in 2015. And it was 2,700 images, and some were included in the paper, some were like process prompts that he was, accumulating to test the algorithm over and over. Anyway, long story short, I reached out to Elman, said, hey man, I reached out to him early 23. And I said, there's something super special in what you did. You're going to transform art. You're going to transform photography. You're going to transform culture with that little idea that you had of what happens if you create images from text. And he instantly said, okay, I want to do something with you guys. And so it took us like 6, 7 months to kind of translate what that could be as an art project. And it was, working with him close, uh, like we were almost ready, and then it was like, no, this feels something's missing, and we would scrap everything and go back to the start, and until we just listened to what he did. He wrote a paper. There were prompts that were included in the paper, and then there were prompts that were test prompts, and that's how we created the art project. You have these two like sections, these two traits, and then we released it out to the world. And the first time we showed it was in Perry Photo, and it was, I mean, I cannot explain the amount of excitement and attention that project gained. Museums were buying the artworks, private collectors. It was amazing. People understood because of where we were in late 2023 with text to image. It had done a full 360. It was like it started with nothing, and we were in only 9 years in a different planet in terms of the quality of what you could do with text to image. So that, I think, that was part of the mission of why we wanted to work with early AI projects, because this is such a new technology. Nobody really understands what AI art is. Like, what is it? Like, we don't really know. We're too inside the zeitgeist to really put a flavor on it. But if if you work with simple analogies of the passing of time through a technology and the developments and sophistication of the technology, there's ways to connect with the public. And people saw, here's where we were 9 years ago. This is where we are today with Rope, with Nice Aunties, and all these new artists. And people get it. And that is such a beautiful thing to watch on people's eyes. It just illuminates. It's like, oh my God, like this is going to transform the world. And yeah, we're all for that. It creates excitement, it creates fear, but it really creates a connection, which is what art is all about.
Thanks for that great answer. And you touched on something that I think is a great segue. And I've heard you speak with Roger about this before, about the importance of museums. You said in such a short span of time, not only was the public aware of how special this collection was and this movement was, but museums actually collected the artwork. And I think that's a great chance to segue over into that, because I think this year we saw some big strides into museums. Somebody like the Toledo Museum of Art comes to mind, picking up the Utrata piece. And RD was so careful to point out that not only did they acquire that piece, but they went through all this red tape and I'm sure regulatory hurdles and everybody that they've got to get in touch with to get these signed, all the bureaucracy, to do that in USDC, which doesn't sound like a lot at face value, but to do that in a cryptocurrency, even a stable coin, is a huge, huge leap from what we've seen in the past. And so, Alejandro, I know you're well versed in the institution world, as is RD. Stephen, Merave, Paper Buddha, feel free to chime in as well. But I did want to shift the conversation a little bit to that. Toledo Museum of Art, as I mentioned, is a great conversation piece, as is the Francisco Carolinum Lintz Chuli. I know you guys are familiar with what they're doing there. So I would love to chat just a bit more about the institutional side and kind of what moves we're seeing in what I would feel is a positive direction. I see PB's got his hand raised. So PB, yeah, step up to the plate, my friend.
Yeah. Wanted to jump in and just share a kind of a museum thing that maybe most people won't see front and center. Some of you guys know I'm down in Kansas City, moving back up to Detroit, but I've been down here for the last year, working with the Nelson Atkins Museum. They have one of the largest Asian art exhibits in the nation, and they're coming at crypto from how do we digitize our collection? How do we honor the archive, these things that are in the back of the house that the modern museum goer doesn't ever get to see? So they're really interested in trace chips, things like that, as they're coming up, this new technology, and figuring out, shout out to Transient, figuring out how to bridge the gap from the old world to the new world. And that's not, they're not picking up pieces, they're not out here collecting, so we don't get to see them in the kind of art scroll, the 24 hours of art news feed, if you will. But there are museums, traditional institutions that are out here very interested in the back end of the technology.
Paper, thanks for mentioning that. And I think we've been saying it, a lot of the bridging is important. I know Alejandro also mentioned Nice Aunties and just in general being in Mexico at a traditional art affair and exhibiting AI artwork. And I remember being there and seeing people walk by and reacting to it. And again, I think it's just, at least I hope that 2025 is going to have a larger emphasis on, and continue to emphasize, I should say, on bridging this gap and creating these type of memorable experiences and just ways to really engage with new audiences that aren't familiar. So thank you for bringing that to light. And that's huge. I think just seeing more of these institutions and museums getting involved. Alejandro, you were about to also jump in and say something, so I'll hand you the mic. Go ahead.
Sure, sure. I mean, the Nelson Atkins is an amazing museum. They actually hold some of my artwork, and they are super, super interested in, in how to bridge these new technologies into traditional art pieces. And they're not the only ones. I've had conversations with other museums. It's always the challenge that they have is between, do we focus on the, let's say, art literacy, or do we focus on the object preservation and literacy, or the, not literacy of the object, but more of like, how do we take care of the objects? Because and this is the challenge. Museums are caretakers of objects. they have such a different mission sometimes to what private collectors have in terms of building an art collection. So it's a very complicated thing to be like a museum. They have so many steps, so much bureaucracy in order for it to move and to like adapt new technologies or new ideas. But I think it's actually fair that they are slow because they, whatever they jump into, they go in seriously, right? And so it what when you see those signals of they are taking the risk and they're pushing towards, that is super important for us in the digital art space because it means that they're going to be investing for a good amount of time because they've seen what is valuable of the technology or the art that they're betting on. But they're slow. They're definitely slow, but the opportunities there, and like you mentioned before, we need, and I think people are super excited to see the art world that we've built in the digital art space. And people get so like they can't believe the amount of stuff that we're doing in the NFT space. And they want to see it, but the first introduction is to meet them live with physical artwork in a space. I think that is like the transition where they're like, "Oh, that's what you're talking about." So hopefully, there's a lot more of organizations and peers in the NFT space that take that leap of faith to try to, knock on the doors, not because we need them, just it's that we want to expand and we want more people to fall in love and with the stuff that we are in love with. So it's more about sharing. It's not that we need the traditional art space at all.
Yeah, I definitely think it's the same way with brands as well, Alejandro, whether it's conversations people are having or it's more of the advisement roles, but it's people that are coming from the community that really understand the ethos and the direction that we want to build this in, and then taking that information and opening up these conversations with museums, brands, more institutional. And I know you said we don't need them, but I'm definitely an advocate for bringing in more of the mainstream. And for me, at least, I definitely like to emphasize the brands. I think we do as an industry need to grow and expand. And I know it's not museums like we were talking about, but brands for me, I think are more the key to the masses. And again, just the right people, even opening up the conversations and getting some education in and getting them to like dip their toe in the water and these baby steps. It does take forever, even with brands in the corporate world. But I think it's absolutely the direction we need to go in to continue to grow and to bring new people into this ecosystem and honestly to bring more funds and money into the ecosystem too, to see that continue to grow and expand. I do want to also just mention we've talked about AI. I know earlier in the conversation, art residencies came up as a bit more of a trend that's been going on the last year. We've been seeing things happen, whether it was in Rio with Selkie Art House and came up earlier with Violet in Mexico. I know All Ships has done a few things, Maker's Place. I believe there was also something in Bali and Marfa as well. So that's another trend I think Milton and I were talking about. But I also wanted to open up the floor. I know there's a couple of other speakers. Stephen, if there's anything you want to jump in and share as well in terms of what you've noticed, any trends, anything you just want to mention. Obviously, Ordinals as well has been a huge, has taken over a bit of this art market in the last year. So anything you guys want to comment on, please feel free to jump on.
Yeah, no, I'll jump in for a quick second here. There was a couple of things I wanted to note, just I guess from an overall market health standpoint, just to give people a little bit of a different perspective on things. There's always going to be slow times. There's always going to be fast times when it comes to our market at large, right? When we see more volume pour in, it's going to become a lot more clear, like, when those moments hit. But even during a bearish year like this year, there's still quite a lot that we can look back on and be really, really excited for, proud of, and frankly, just like very much so optimistic about for our own future out here. So the one stat off the top here that I wanted to share, just because like I just got into it, is like, and when I say I just got into it, I mean like I'm prepping a massive info dump on this. It's going to be coming out right after the new year. But in 2024, like literally since January 1st, for the digest that I've been dropping weekly, We covered literally 1,750 plus drops. And that's an incredibly staggering statistic when you just look at it and not just like say like, holy shit, like look at all the stuff they covered. It's not the point. We didn't capture everything. Let that set in for a sec. We did not capture every single drop that occurred across Web3 this year. We focused on the majority of just like the bigger ecosystems, and occasionally we threw in Tezos. Yes, that is my own vendetta, but that's its own thing. I only shit talk them on my show. I refuse to do it on yours. But the reality that we had that type of incredible volume of releases, even during a down year, to me is an indicator that like there's actually like a very significant part of this market that's healthy underneath it all that we don't get the chance to see every single day because we live in an attention economy. So if you're an artist out there and you're currently a little overwhelmed by the fact that like, it's still been so bearish, like how do I time my drops? Taking in all this different input and insights and help from others in the market that know it, have faith, because straight up, like it's okay for you to slow mint. It's okay for you to release a piece when it's ready for, you know, things in your own mind's eye. You don't need to force it. But there's always going to be a time where things surge. There's always going to be a time where things pull back. But I'm really encouraged for the year ahead in terms of what we've seen this year, because we've seen a high quality of drops as well. So definitely a lot to be keeping an eye out for there, but that's one data point that I didn't want to go unspoken during this reflection.
Thank you, Stephen. And actually, that was a great segue into one of the questions I was going to ask everyone on stage right now, if they want to jump in and maybe share any advice to artists as we start off the new year. I think it's been, some people have mixed feelings about 2024. Stephen, I love you just left us on more of a positive note. But as we start 2025, is there anything that maybe you guys want to directly say to artists? And Merv, I saw your hand shoot up, so maybe I'll swing you the mic first. Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, if they listen the whole space, so that was the answer, is attending the events. Because all the I mean the Paper Buddha, Alejandro, RD, Steven, like Trevor, like we all talk that we met in those events or came across. So, and this is how we build. I'm gonna like shout out to Ratbeard right now. So I mean, this is how literally we build. This is how literally I did all my network for last 3 years. It's been crazy. This is my third year here, and I've met like the maybe 80% of the space right now. um and I did with going to the events and meeting people in real life, because like having a 5 minutes conversation just coming across is like bigger than chasing the people, like replying them, waiting for like their answers to DM. I mean, it's not working. It can work, of course, but if you met the person in real life, it is totally different. I was gonna ask something to Brian, and I met him in an event. I don't even remember when, but I never DM'd him. So like couple weeks ago, I was gonna ask him something, and I opened the DM to write him, and I saw that I wrote him like many years ago that even he didn't return, and I don't even remember what I wrote, why I wrote that. So, and like he's really one of the good friends right now, so I can write and ask. So things change if you be present. So this is my only take and only advice for the artists. Also, the most importantly, just be kind to each other. I know people are so like critics. I mean, being a critic is good, and I know that in our space we don't have much critics, but there is no constructive criticism when it's come to the critics. It's just people just like try to kill each other. Just don't do that. If someone is like winning something, okay, just be happy and try to build your own legacy, because they are like their win or your win doesn't gonna change anything. There is no curve. There is no cure here. So their, I mean, of course, their win can help you, but it doesn't necessarily means that you're failing. Um, and like weird times, and I think people need to hear some more like encouragement things. So the encouragement I can give is like, just do. Even if you don't like what you're doing right now, just do it, because it can like open another stuff, and it happens all the time. Yeah, that's my take.
That was great, Merv. I love those. I love that, first of all, he left you on read, and you're right. People cannot ignore you when you're standing in front of them. But yeah, it's a conversation we've had on other spaces as well, how important the IRL events really are. And like you said, immediately you know people, you build those relationships. At the end of the day, when you get to hang out with people, travel, party, etc., break bread and sit down and just have a meal together, that cannot be duplicated online. And I know certain people, obviously it's not as easy for some, whether it's families or financial situations or whatever. So of course, if you cannot travel for certain things, try to maybe prioritize one event next year if it's possible, but also just make sure to continue engaging online and keeping it just very genuine as well. I think it shows immediately when those attempts are not genuine and you're reaching out because you want something or whatever. Like, keep in mind that the person you're reaching out to is also a person, and no one likes to feel used. So I just want to emphasize how important the organic relationship building is. And then, yeah, Merv, I mean, you said it, just be a good person, good energy. I think you're going to attract what you put out there. So it's something absolutely, I am definitely in agreement with you there. Milton, I saw your hand shoot up, so I didn't mean to cut you off, but you can jump in and respond to Merv as well.
No, not at all. I think Merve is hitting the nail on the head there about the IRL events. And like you said, Vasia, if funds are an issue, choose one event and make that one NFC Lisbon and come see me. Let's hang out there at my favorite event. But no, choose one that most resonates with you. I think if you listen to this show, you'll be on a fast start to figure out which one is best suited to your tastes and needs. So keep tuning in with us. That's my quick little plug. But yeah, I would definitely echo what Merve said. And it's a small space. And I think looking at each other's wins is something to celebrate. We are much too small right now to have any kind of negative energy towards somebody who's winning. As a matter of fact, I think we're one of the few spaces in art where you could actually reach out, even if it's a cold DM, and say, "Hey, I see what you did there. Not only did I love it, but I would love to collab with you." And oftentimes you'll get a resounding yes for that. So I think if we look around the space, there's shining examples of people who have been super resilient as well. We were talking about surviving. Alejandro was joking about that, but it's very true. There's a room full of survivors right now as we look across the faces here in the PFPs. And I think if you look at people like Paper Buddha, who I'm going to pass the mic to, Paper Buddha's shifted gears a bit now, and he's doing a lot of physical work. I think that's been a big trend this year that we've seen. I was hoping somebody might speak on that a bit. Art Blocks comes to mind. Even we saw MP Cause with bouquet lamps, for example, most recently with big success. They also produced some physical artwork paired with fragrances. But Paper Buddha, talking about recently being in Marfa, Texas, had tons and tons and tons of posters. And he is becoming the Grateful Dead of our art space and bringing physical posters with him everywhere he goes. He even left some for our kind keepers at the White House Ranch that we stayed in Morpha. So even some normies I don't know what they're getting, but they're getting some Paper Buddha, some beautiful West meets East art to red pill them into our space. So Paper, I'd love to hear if you have anything to speak on that specifically. And I think you had your hand raised even before I started that topic. So go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, man. I was going to comment really quick on advice to artists, and then I'll jump in there. My advice to artists is this is a race against yourself, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. So do things at your own pace. Don't get FOMO'd because everyone's dropping on rodeo. Don't get FOMO'd because everyone just had big Gen Art conference. Just stay true to yourself and move at your own speed. And I say that as somebody who minted a whole bunch early, and now I mint like one or two collections a year, and that's it. So I've gone the whole gambit. And then the other piece of advice for artists is get a mentor. We have been in this space for long enough that there are people that have been here for years, longer than you. I would highly recommend that you find somebody that you like what they're laying down and go, "Hey, man, I'm looking for a mentor. I'm looking for somebody to just be there for me to bounce ideas off of, to ask questions, to help with my professional development. I think that those things are super, super important. And then, to what HardArt's talking about, I've found myself becoming a bridge between the digital and the physical, especially because of the nature of my art, that it is culturally relevant and culturally relevant to a specific part of the world, not as in crypto culture, the Buddhist part of it. I found myself going to quite a few Buddhist art shows, just like I went to crypto art shows in 2024, and that's putting me square in this place of a lot of traditional art asking me a bunch of questions and me really needing to adjust and start to make physical art to tell that story, to tell the story of the digital side of it. Right. And so for me, my mission has changed a little bit. And, now I'm working on this whole kind of cultural center concept up in Detroit of a Zen garden meets an art gallery, a physical space, because I see the need to have these physical places for people to come experience digital art, and it just so happens that I kind of pigeonholed myself into this weird intersection with my art where people are like, hey, we have these grants to give people that are doing Buddhist art stuff, blah, 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 blah. How can we mix it with digital art? How can we incorporate, frames? How can we incorporate technology in traditional settings? Really crazy shit. And that's because of being at these physical events with people. Again, coming back to the importance of the physical. And, just to be straight with everybody, my art sales weren't super great over the last couple of years. And so a lot of 2024 was me basically hitchhiking to somewhere and staying on somebody's floor with my bedroll and living off of a bag of cashews and some mangoes. I'm not fucking scared to get down like that. So I don't actually think that cost is as much of an obstacle as people like to think. The just being a part of a community and knowing that when you go to Marfa, Texas, there's going to be some fucking free tacos, homie. If you're going to go to Miami, there's a lot of hors d'oeuvres. So there's a way to do this stuff without spending $1 bazillion. Even though I do like to spend $1 bazillion, and I did that a couple of times in 2024, that there's a way to do this on a budget if you're really serious about it. So getting out to these real world events, making your art both physical and digital, and really trying to bridge the gap, onboard the next million users. That gets me fired up every morning.
Thank you, Paper, for sharing. And you just dropped a lot of gems. I mean, I love especially the get a mentor. I think that's great life advice in general. Roger, I saw the hand pop up immediately, so please go ahead and continue the conversation for us.
No, I love that. Listen, on my way out, I do have to hop to a meeting, but this has been amazing. You're amazing. Moments is amazing. Keep going. Two things I wanted to shout out of things I just heard. One was from PB, the other's from Merv. Both are very, very practical and pragmatic. And I think that's what's on my mind today as we head into a new year. Paper Buddha, getting out there, right? Doing what you need to do to get out there, get tactile, do the thing. It's such a strong mentality. Like, even if your work is predominantly digital, even if you're cozy and comfortable and you have a wonderful base, just a little bit outside the box does so much for the mental health and sometimes expanding your horizons. And then Merv, you said something really interesting. Just sometimes doing the thing leads to more things. Getting moving, getting unstuck, taking action, doing something, keeping going in a direction, even if you don't know what true north is yet, is so underrated. It's so underrated for the ultimate solve or the ultimate unlock. Really love those two takes. And this is just a host of amazing people on stage and in the crowd. Appreciate the hell out of all of you. Happy holidays and New Year's to you and yours. Let's have a great 25. Thanks again, Vas and HardArt.
Thank you so much, Roger, for joining. Happy New Year. Wishing you the best. I'm really excited to see what you and 24 Hours of Art have in store for us for 2025. Always here to support. Let us know what we can do to just continue elevating and propelling the community. So thanks again for your time. I don't know if there was anyone else on stage that wants to add real quick before we segue into the last. Yeah, Alejandro, please jump in.
Yes, same. I have to jump off, but in terms of artists and what to do for 2025 and just for your art career, the advice Merv, Roger just gave, just keep doing. And at some point there will be a breakthrough, either conceptually or aesthetically or market wise. The most difficult thing for an artist, and I can say that from a 20-year experience, is to stop doing it and then to jumpstart again. It's triple the work and triple the emotional effort. So keep doing, keep experimenting, small things, doesn't matter, just be in motion, and that will, eventually, hopefully, lead you to a breakthrough in your practice. And that's it. And hoping for everybody on stage and listening that they have an amazing 2025. Stay calm, stay positive, and be kind to your fellow NFTers. And that's it. Thank you guys for having me on stage today.
Thank you so much, Alejandro, for sharing, for joining, for taking the time, and for sharing your positive energy. I can literally feel it through the phone right now. So appreciate you so much, and congratulations on an amazing year. Super excited to see what you yourself as an artist have to coming for us in 25, as well as obviously fellowship and all that you've been building. So appreciate what you've been doing for the community. Milton, I think this might be a great time for us to kind of transition right into our last section. So we broke down the whole 2024 recap into IRL events, art, and now we're just going to wrap it up with community. So the community, Milton and I were talking previously, and he mentioned the community starting to feel smaller. It has been a bear market. Not everyone is still standing, unfortunately. I guess good and bad. I think this type of market just acts as a natural filtration system. I mean, the real ones are still standing and hustling, and it hasn't been easy. Maybe some of us have even part-time transitioned back into certain pre-Web3 and not being full-time, which is completely okay as well. But we did want to quickly recap with some communities that are still here, that have been building some amazing infrastructure, that we're very excited to see what they have coming for us in 2025. Milton, I'm going to hand you the mic, Mr. Hype Man. Tell us, what communities are we excited about?
Yeah, thanks for passing the mic. So, community is obviously huge within our space, and we've seen some shining examples of survivors, like we joked about earlier, but not just surviving, but thriving and taking it to the next level. A lot like we saw people stepping up their game in the IRL events world. We also saw that with some of the communities this year. So I'll give some shout outs to some of those that come to mind. Since we just had him on stage, Mr. Roger Dickerman definitely comes to mind with 24 hours of art and the tokenized community that was built there. You talk about somebody who under promises and over delivers. We are definitely going to see a 25-hour space out of Roger next year. Vasia, you're trying to let him off the hook, but I guarantee you ask him for 25, he'll give you 29. He did that with the 24 hours of art community this year. And let me tell you how infectious he is. If he's not somewhere to host one of those IRL events, you'll have somebody step up like Selkie. I gave her a shout out at the beginning of the show. But for example, in France, when Roger wasn't able to be present because he can't be everywhere all at once and still spend 3 hours writing a report every single day, you'll have a great community member like Selkie step up to the stage to represent 24 hours of art. And I thought the job that they did with Transient Labs to produce this dynamic token that comes to life the day of the report. I got a bunch of Beeple on mine. Beeple was some of the first pieces of art that I collected. So I was lucky enough to actually be able to truly resonate with something in my collection on my token. So it's just such a fun process. And not to mention his community, the token gated community on Telegram, maybe outside of Paper Buddha's The Temple, is one of the livest, most active communities that you'll find. If you're away for a couple days, you're going to see literally hundreds of messages that you have to catch up on. So got to give them tons and tons of flowers. Love Roger, love that community, and love to see what they've got for next year. I've already minted my token, as we mentioned earlier. Let's chill a little bit. Go mint that token. Go mint that token. It's still available. And that's going to be another dynamic piece that I promise you will not regret. And you're going to get more than you bargained for when you purchase that membership. Another one, while we got Alejandro here, is Fellowship. And I know a lot about Fellowship actually through Roger's praises. So I think one thing that we didn't touch on, although we covered how well they have been visionaries of future art movements, and how really dynamic and just groundbreaking this new, text to image, text to video, all this AI movement that we've seen is going to become. And obviously, the collectors agree. One thing that we didn't touch on, I think is worth mentioning, is Alejandro and fellowship team have been known to foster quite the secondary market, which, man, if you look around at marketplaces, which unfortunately are either pivoting or dropping like flies, rest in peace, known origin, for example, something that we see is really tough for collectors is secondary. I would give my left arm to be able to move some pieces that I bought in 2021, hopefully at a profit. You know where I'm going to put that money back into more art. But now I think I know a little bit more. My tastes maybe have shifted. I have more of a collection thesis. I think it's such a great aspect to see out of a community that's sponsoring such a healthy secondary market. So I know that Alejandro gets a lot of praise and the fellowship team gets a lot of praise for that. So did want to give them kudos because I think we could use a ton more of that. Another community that I think doesn't always get the praise it deserves is the Aku community. The Aku community is still alive and well, and you're seeing Michael. You're seeing that community go to places like the MLB, partnering with Major League Baseball. So Micah Johnson, still head down, hard at work. You're still seeing his sculptures. You're still seeing big partnerships. You're still seeing community members like Freddie Numbers, my good friend, active in that community, and I just love what they stand for. The Aku community is always about a greater impact. They've been known to give back to lots of charities through their backpack program. So they have not gone anywhere. They came out strong in 2022 with the Akutar collection. The Aku community is still very, very strong. Some other success stories that we've seen that I think are still kicking ass, even in the toughest of conditions, are the 6529 community. I'm not a member of that one, but I definitely see from the sidelines what they're doing, and they've seen definitely a lot of commercial success. Maybe somebody that's in that community can speak to what the community aspect is like, but got to give props to them for having some major artists come online and building a lot of excitement around collecting 6529 collections. Also, I want to throw Schiller in there, and I can speak to Schiller. Just attending their events and meeting those guys, Fungible, Bernardo, Buna. I mean, producing excellent content, starting some of the best conversations that we've had in this space. As a matter of fact, one of the episodes not too long ago was about the transition that Foundation made with Rodeo on their Instagram. And guess who started that conversation? That was Fungible. Then that tweet went viral. And I think it sparked a very healthy conversation about what's happening in our industry. Schiller also produces great art drops. So if you haven't checked them out, they've got a star-studded cast of artists that have teamed up with them. And through their passes and their collector network, you can collect some amazing art. Much like Click Create. So I wanted to move to them as well. Click Create is also another membership program. I think this has been one of the few winning models. We've seen lots of people trial and error, a lot of good ideas that unfortunately haven't found the collector support, but Click Create is still with us, still doing great things. And I think they're amplifying their game as well. For instance, they have a prepay feature now to where it helps collectors be able to go in and within I believe it's a 24-hour time period, go in and work around some of those complicated or expensive gas fee times when people are trading meme coins or just the network is congested. So I think they're either starting to integrate some of these just nice comforts for collectors to go in and make the collection process itself even easier. And again, they're known to throw great events. I see Abrahani's in the crowd. I know they teamed up with Light Art last year at Basel. I was there. I've been to their events at NFT NYC, several different cities in Basel, for example, and they throw great events as well. We gave them kudos earlier for throwing their event at Station 3, for example, at NFT NYC this year, which was an excellent event filled with great people. So those are some that come immediately to mind. If I'm missing some, this is the time where you chime in. And if you're on stage, great. If you're in the crowd, that's fine too. Raise your hand. We'd love to have you up. I'm sure I didn't catch them all because I can't be everywhere at once. But yeah, come up to the stage. Anybody else that wants to chime in?
Shout out to Dave Krugman and All Ships. Not only do they have the Creator House, but such a vibe with the car sale out at Marfa, just really rallying a whole great community of people. I've had the privilege of being a part of that for a couple of years now, and just really watching them crank it up this year and focus on building community. So big shout out to All Ships.
Actually, Allship is doing crazy events in New York as well, just not limited to Marfa. And I want to shout out to OG's community as well. He's doing cool shit, being cool, and other, I don't know. I'm gonna shout out Bright Moments still is like alive. I mean, it's alive though. It's not that. It's just they're not continuing to the same events. We will see. Um what's more? I don't know.
I can chime in too. It was mentioned earlier, and thank you. All Ships obviously is on that list. I don't know how I skipped over that one, but I've been to every event that they've thrown it, if at all possible, starting in Mexico and uh, most recently, um, most recently at the last event of all the 15 that I attended. They're always amazing, including oftentimes crazy things like oyster bars, and man, they go all out. So yes, huge. Drive was amazing. I even got to keep my physical van that I collected on the most recent drive. And I even won the most recent drive contest on Twitter. I just found out today doing some homework for the space. So big shout out to All Ships. I was going to give one more quick shout out to somebody that should definitely be mentioned, and it's FDOT. So FDOT was mentioned by Paper Buddha earlier, and FDOT did open his studio slash home to collectors, which was quite nice. But I find that FDOT, especially once you're a collector, you really do become family. And he goes the extra mile to invite you to his home, to his studio. The guy's bought me ice cream before on the street, just completely unasked for, bought my bar tabs, you name it. He just invited me to go to Mexico with him where he's doing a mural in Tulum. So it's like immediate family. You could tell why Paper Buddha wanted to become a one-on-one collector of his. But the Canal Street show that he threw most recently at Loom Studios was a great example of how he's trying to elevate our space. So his first Canal Street show at NFT NYC, I believe he had 2 curators, and he's trying to bring more people in. He had 7 people this year come in, so he was widening that spectrum, trying to show let a little more liberty for freedom of control for these other curators to come in and produce their vision at his show. So I just thought that was a big leap of faith, because if you've met FDOT and you've seen the shows that he produces, you know that he's very discerning, very careful about how he even places the art, the artists that he has. He knows their story up and down. So for him to be doing what he's doing to help grow the space, I think is great. And we've seen also one thing I would mention too that is seeing people like Hildebroom. He had Hildebroom come in, who's an artist manager. I think we haven't touched on that yet, but it was probably part of the trends that we were speaking about earlier in the art section that's taken off this year's artist managers. So the first time I really knew that there was an artist manager doing successful things in our space was meeting Hildebroom at the Canal Street show at Loom Studios at the most recent Subjective Art Fair. So I think FDOT definitely deserves a big shout out there. I'm sure there's more. You guys have had a time to mull that over a little bit. Somebody jump in. I'm sure there's a couple more at least to mention. Vasia, maybe I'll pass the mic to you for that one.
Well, I also just wanted to mention, I know people have been listening down below. If you guys want to comment, I haven't had a chance to go through all the comments, but I want to encourage everyone to anything that whether it's communities that we're talking about right now or just in general events, anything that maybe you did, like this is your opportunity to shill. And one of the things that I love about these spaces is having people come on stage. So I'm actually going to open it up. If anyone wants to just request, jump on stage, say a quick GM, tell us about your 2024 experience and anything you quickly want to share in terms of, your accomplishments and success. I want to give people the opportunity to share, pin up tweets, drop them in the comments as well, so people can go back and reference as they listen to the recordings. Just kind of, again, open it up to the community to share. And there are no requests. Dang, I thought we were going to get more traction on this one.
Hey, while we're waiting, I know we've already given flowers, but let's give some more to Paper Buddha. I mentioned before that Paper Buddha's community, the temple, is super, super supportive. All kinds of things in there, from self-promotion channels to trading. If you want to go down the DeFi rabbit hole, you can do that. And then, of course, the general chat is always just full of positivity. Paper Buddha's temple is full of people who I think have been very agile in this space, and I think they're great examples of people to learn from. So yeah, I've chosen a lot of people out of there to do my one-on-one interviews, whether it's with the Turbo community or most recently switching to my own brand and doing the Articulate space. So I'm just super appreciative of Paper Buddha's community that's very lively. If you go into Discord, do you remember Discord? If you go into Discords these days, oftentimes it's just crickets. You haven't seen any messages for weeks or months at a time. That's not the case with Paper Buddha's Telegram. So I would encourage you to take a look at the temple. That's definitely a community that has not only survived but thrived, like some of the others that we mentioned. So, Paper, you don't have to give your own flowers. I'll give them for you, boss. But I'm grateful to have met you and be part of that temple. And I would say, man, definitely, 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 if that you don't know if the temple's right for you, go to one of these IRL events. The last one that we were at in Basel is just a funny anecdote. Talking about being persistent and agile, we got kicked out of Legion Park in Miami, but PB refused to take no for an answer. And so by the time the two rangers had visited us twice and told us we had to disperse, PB waited for the police to arrive, explained our situation. The police sided with us and allowed us to stay and continue our complimentary massages and blunts and brunch and chilling and hanging out and vibing. So, yeah, you definitely need to go to the IRL events to get the full experience. But if you want to get a taste, you can jump into Telegram, but then put it on your calendar for 2025 to join PB at one of the events. He's also a conference maxi. You're going to find him someplace. Maybe it's with me crashing for Basel, like he said. If you're on a budget, ring me up. I run the Milt Inn, and I'll host you if you're anywhere around the Florida area for one of these events, and we'll have a good time. But yeah, Temple is another great community that I would mention. While I'm looking through the crowd too, if Abrahani's not able to speak, I would mention Light Art. So Light Art is a nonprofit that gives a spotlight to artists. They give a spotlight to artists weekly. That's Tuesdays at noon. I'm fortunate enough to be a co-host with Abrahani for some of those. Also, you might find Beholding Eye Paul Siebert there as well. So we kind of do a rotation of hosts and co-hosts there. But they put a spotlight on some great guests. Sometimes they're builders. Sometimes they are artists, sometimes they're photographers. Light Art is full of quite a few photographers themselves, so you get a good mix of photography, which I personally love, and I'm hoping to take part in Web3 one of these days when I get off my ass. But definitely take a look at Light Art, and they also make sure to host great events like People with Click Create and showcase art where some of these artists can't make it themselves. They are there to showcase art at places like NFT Paris, for example. So big love to Abrahani, Mayamo, Matt, and the Light Art team. Vasia, I'll pass it back to you.
Milton, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you're doing that thing where you give so much information in introduction, and then the speaker's like, I don't know what else to say. Abrahani on my end, she looks like she's a speaker, so I want to answer
Oh,
them.
sorry, I'm having that
No,
issue.
no.
I got rugged a couple times. Sorry.
Don't worry about it.
Abrahani's, hey, she's very eloquent. I guarantee you she's got a lot more content.
Bam. Oh, thank you for the shout out and the love towards Light Art, a community really focused for artists. And I'm grateful to have the opportunity to co-host with Milton. And through Milton, I've met Vasia, and I feel like this year was a year of travel, a year of a lot of exposure when it comes to art, where you arrived at an event and you had no idea these art and these artists existed. And I think that's the best thing when you arrive to an IRL event. I had that opportunity in multiple occasions and many events, starting from February all the way to I don't know, my last event, IRL event was this year, maybe October, but so many great opportunities to meet and greet. So I agree. I think Marvis said that attend IRL events. There's so much good going on there, not just connecting, but introducing yourself to great content, great art, new opportunities. But yeah, Light Art. Thank you, Milton. We love having you, and we love hosting spotlights. I think also with moments very similar, we like to shine a light on artists that are doing great things, collectors that are doing great things, but also insight and information like our security one and yeah, we're just learning from the community. I think that's so important. So I love hearing that. I know that Steven does some great open conversations as well here on Space. And so I'm just honored to be a part of this community that has so much great content to share. But then also, we love to discover, guys, learning and growing is a part of life, and I love that I get to do that with you all. That's a little bit about what we do at Light Art, but personally, 2024 was such a ramble year. But I'm excited to see what 2025 has for us. I feel like time is going by so quickly, but excited I get to do life with you all. Thank you for the shout out.
Abrahani, thank you for joining this stage, and feel free also in the comments below, drop anything, because you're also a photographer and there's a lot that you do in this space outside of just contributing with light art, and you do show up to these events, you do show love and support, and you're another person where it's like I could just hear the energy and the passion in your voice, and you're always just again elevating and supporting. So love to also do the same for you. If you want to drop anything in the comments below so that people can go back and reference. And just want to remind people, actually, Milton's also doing the bogus giveaway to people that are commenting. So he's going to go through, select a comment after this space, and airdrop some bogus to them. So I definitely want to encourage people to be posting in the comments below. I also want to welcome Manik to the stage. GM, how are you?
Hey, GM, what's up, everybody? Yeah, I've been listening in, since the beginning of the space. I'm just here with my son. We were out and about, in nature. We were walking and just getting some exercise and getting some fresh air. It's healthy to do that. But yeah, so I was just listening in and just what do you call it? Just thinking about 2024 and just it's coming up. I'm gonna be in the space 4 years this February. It's amazing. I'm still here. I've really barely taken a day off since I've been in the space. Started off on Clubhouse, and it's just an amazing space. And I really found my tribe in being a part of the whole NFT space, and just like I say it so much, but I've grown so much as an artist, as a human being. Like it's made me just become just like stronger, like mentally, like um just all around, like I think just a better person in general. You know, it's just I can't say anything really bad about it. Only thing I could say really is, I guess, like about like the little bit, the Twitter addiction, kind of social media thing, like fear of missing out sometimes. But no, I'm just overall just grateful. 2024 has been amazing for me. Like I finally got on Super Rare. I've had the most success, like when it comes to making money with my art. I struggled for a long time, you know, but I was persistent and kept trying different things, taking risks, leaned into what was working, and just like kept pushing and pushing no matter what. Like even when I was getting like no engagement on posts, just kept pushing and just trying to network and getting out of my comfort zone and just like showing up and just not giving a fuck. Just like, I'm just gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. And just like, as doing that, people are like, man, like this guy's showing up. He's like, all these years, like, and then people like along the way, people are like, you find people that believe in you. And when that happens, people start reposting your work. And like, once you find people that believe in you, it makes you believe in yourself even more. And so that's just like fuel to the fire. And like at some point, like you start to believe in yourself so much, you're bullish on yourself. It's like an energy that radiates. And that's like, after all the years, like I think that's what eventually, like, it got my art so much more better. You got my art better, and eventually it led me on to Super Rare, and like starting to finally have like success. Like even though I'm still struggling financially, like barely, like I don't even know how I'm gonna pay rent this month, for example. Like, but I'm always hopeful that like it'll work out. Like so, like I'm working on a collection, and I'm gonna release it, you know, um, in the new year and stuff like that. And I'm hopeful that it'll work out where I'm able to pay rent. But it's just I have a passion for art, and I have a lot of drive, and I have a strong why. Like my son right here and my family. So I just stay hopeful and keep pushing. And like I said, I'm just grateful for all you guys here, and Happy New Year.
Manik, thank you so much for joining and sharing and being so just honest and vulnerable and for sticking around because this has been a long space, but a lot resonated with what you said. And I guess to take it to more of a personal note for myself in my 2024, I think it's been a very interesting year, but having faith has been a huge, I think, theme for me and constantly being tested. And just when you think you're at your last thread or your last, you don't know um, how you're going to make it to the next month, like you just mentioned, like that's a real conversation that many people have. And something always just last minute seems to hit. And I think it's more leaning into just having faith and believing and um, I don't know. I have this quote that I love a lot. It's whether you're religious or spiritual or not, it doesn't really matter. But I think it's again just emphasizing the need to have faith, and it basically is this mantra of I give up to the divine that which I can no longer carry on my own. And I think the whole purpose of it is again just to emphasize that you're not alone, and there is this universe or whatever again people choose to believe. Hang in there, basically, I hear the determination in your voice. I definitely am wishing everyone a abundant 2025, especially for those that have been hustling in here and really putting in the time and the work, even when it goes unnoticed. I think it's just, reminding ourselves that certain things do take time, but it's really laying the foundations so that, like Paper Buddha mentioned earlier, it is a marathon and you want to make sure that you're here for the long run. So hang in there. And I just want to encourage you as well, if there's anything you want to pin to the top or drop in the comments, share a little bit more about yourself for people to reference in case they're not familiar. Feel free to do so.
Yeah, and I also want to say one more thing. If there are any artists, and listening in, that have maybe because I have bipolar, I'm very open about it, that have like mental illness, like bipolar, schizophrenia, stuff like that, either themselves or have family members that are like struggling or that don't like to talk about it. I'm always like, I'm open about it. And that's like part of my story. So, I love to talk to people about it because I'm an advocate about it. And, it's just like part of my story and part of my art. So, I'm just putting that out there. And so I'm always looking to go on podcasts and share my story because that's just part of my thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that as well. That also really resonates. It's like another mantra. It's using God, I'm such a nerd for inspirational quotes in case you can't tell, but it's using your mess to make your mess your message. And it's things like that. I mean, I get you mentioned your why as your son, but it also sounds like you're here for a larger purpose and a larger impact. And it's, being able to even just talk about your story have in ways that you don't even realize can impact and inspire many. So thank you for doing that. It definitely takes a lot of courage to be open about certain personal topics. So I really appreciate you sharing that as well and inviting people to just DM you and reach out. So thanks again for joining the stage. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add, but I did see Julia Sky join the stage. So I want to say hi to Julia and wish her a happy new year. What's up, Julia? It's been a minute, but I hope you've been doing well. How are you?
Hey, Vasia. It's been a minute for sure. Feels like a year equals 1 minute. Happy New Year. This has been crazy because, this year has been the toughest year of my entire life. I'm literally working as a cashier in a deli right now and closing the store. Just to but it's like I kept going, I'm just happy I minted one piece this year, dude, because I hit bottom and then I had a crazy, crazy year of the most ups and downs ever. Year of the dragon. I went into this year being this is gonna be the best year, and then falling flat on my face and being am I even an artist anymore? Kind of situation. And then I slowly started kind of healing and getting back into the flow of things. And I think just being in a gallery again felt and around other artists made me kind of wake up again. I kind of went back to zero where I forgot and lost all kinds of knowledge. And then now I'm back with artists and it feels great. So I'm just grateful to know you guys. And I know things are gonna get better. And I'm just I haven't spoken in spaces in forever. So I feel like I lost my ability to speak. But now I'm gaining it back. And there's hope for sure. Because then I held on to my crypto for dear life from all the art sales I made in 2022. I held it because I was I'm not about to sell my crypto. I'm gonna get any kind of job near me to keep going. And then I everything started going back up again, and I was like waking up, and then Miami happened, and I went to Art Basel and ended up exhibiting at Trippy Labs, which was like, I went to a Pancakes and Booze a couple months just to begin again, and then all the way back to Art Basel. So it was like bottom and then back on top of like a good, like an interesting show. And I was like, whoa. So now I'm like figuring out the middle ground of that and just trying to kind of like start over again. You know, I basically feel like 2025 is like a rebirth, kind of like Phoenix energy, just arise from the ashes of death and destruction to just start anew. So 2024. I'm just glad we made it.
Babe, thank you so much for jumping on stage. And I just want to say you are always, always, always welcome here. Milton and I host these every Wednesday, typically at 1 p.m. You're always welcome to join the stage and share and join the conversation. And thank you for jumping on today and just being honest and vulnerable. And that's not easy to do, but I do feel like a lot of people, myself included, can relate. And 2024 is definitely, for me, like you mentioned, the dragon. Yeah, it's been the ups, it's been the downs, and it's been learning to navigate being okay 1 minute and then literally a phone call later you're like having a stroke. So
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. Yeah, and it's like, and right, I feel it, and I think you're not the only one. And I've been reminding myself as well that, you know, it takes, this is just preparing ourselves for the next chapter, and really I think setting the stage, whether it means healing from certain things that we need to let go of and leave in 2024, or just developing certain mindsets and skills and really learning to persevere. Because when you're handed an opportunity that's next level, you got to make sure you're prepared for that. And unfortunately it does take certain things, but you know, things like you just mentioned, you know, having to step away from being a full-time artist and doing other things. Like, we've all been there, we've all done that. We all got to do what we got to do. And as long as, you know, you're staying authentic to who you are and don't lose that spark, don't lose that energy. You're such a beautiful person inside and out. And for those that have met you IRL, you know that about Julia. So don't lose that spark. And I think the best advice to anybody is really making sure you surround yourself with the right people, because that energy is contagious and it can really elevate you and continue to motivate and add fuel to your journey, or it can really like set you back. So again, just want to say you're always welcome on stage here. It was great hearing from you. I think that just made my day, Julia. Thank you so much for jumping
And
on.
like, I guess I wake up as I go to the deli 9 in the morning till 3. And like, in a way, I kind of feel like it's good because when I was an artist, I would sleep till like 3 p.m. So it keeps me kind of motivated to wake up early. So then after the deli, I met a group of musicians, and now we're like finishing my album, which I wrote like for 10 years. So now, like, you know, like I have this guy, Cody Schmidt. He's got super long hair. He looks like Jesus energy. And he's the best guitarist I've ever met in my life. So he's coming over and we're going to record, you know, the song I'm working on, the 4th song, which, you know, I think it's the music right now is calling me greatly. Like, I feel like just recording feels like slowly, you know, like that's when I started my art. It was always music first. It's like the baby steps. So I'm like baby steps again. And then, you know, it's just like you reach such a high point and then you're like, whoa, how did I do that? And I'm like, how the fuck did that happen? Like, who am I? And can I do that again? Kind of situation. But I think it's like start over. Like, I don't care about, like, I just care about being an artist and being like, because I've been so away from it in this bubble. It made me appreciate the bubble that we have here, like this connection with artists. It's really rare, and I'm grateful.
I didn't even know that about you regarding the music. So I would say just follow your gut, keep doing what you're doing. It sounds like you're meeting the right people at the right moments. I'm a firm believer in the divine timing as well. So, you know, hang in there, Julia. You got this. And I'm very, very excited to see not only what you make with the music aspect of things, but also what just 2025 has for you. And just want you to know, and this is obviously open to everyone as well. If you ever need to DM, my DMs are pretty open. Just reach out. If you guys just want to talk, bounce ideas off of, again, it's really about surrounding yourself with the right people and the opportunities, and nothing, Julia, you know, has gone, even though it might feel like it's gone to zero. All the connections, all the people that you've met, all the experiences you've had, they've prepared you, and many of that is still there. So don't feel like it's been a waste. It's just maybe a pivot in a different direction, and again, lean into that gut. It's going to take you far. So I'm very excited to see where 2025 is going to take you, girl.
Thanks, Vasia.
Of course. And Milton, I don't know if there's anything else maybe as we wrap this up. Do you want to add anything about your 2024? And then I'll kind of end us off with key takeaways as well.
No, I'm just happy to be here, happy to be surviving with you all. I am very privileged to be in this crowd because, again, it's full of diehard people who see a vision that we all see. We might be on different islands, but we definitely see the same stars and we all want to shoot for the moon. So I love the fact that I'm with a bunch of agile, intelligent, progressive, warm people that have built community around a shared passion. And I'm just inspired. I have been talking about photography forever. I think I finally got the collection that I want to drop 20 pieces. So maybe that's my crowning moment is finding and talking to some people who I collect and was inspired by that are interested in and perhaps acquiring some of those pieces when I drop them. So looking forward to actually participating. I've been a spectator for so long, but I've been inspired to actually participate in 2025 and grateful to be on stage with you, Vasia, and work with the Trevor Jones team as well. I got really my first opportunity to join a legitimate team, and Trevor was a dream come true when he reached out to me. I know it was through you and your recommendations, so I'm forever grateful for that. But yeah, I'll wrap with that.
Nice. Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you, to say the least. Thank you for co-hosting these with me. And before I go, Stephen, I want to hand you the mic. Thank you for joining us and want to hear from you.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thank you guys again for allowing me to join you today. It was a lot of fun getting the chance to hear about everybody's takeaways on the year, and more than happy to share a little bit of my own from time to time. But don't forget that there are plenty more phenomenal artists that are dropping work literally as we speak and throughout this week. Obviously, it's New Year's week. A lot of people are really just focused on celebrating and spending time. I do not discount that at all. It's extremely important. But if you want to show a little bit of kindness to the other artists that surround us in the space, you can always check out the digest. We literally just posted today's edition. I didn't think we were going to get it out before the end of the space, but somehow we managed to. So we have 55 drops that are coming up across the next 30 days for you in there, but especially showcasing the ones that are currently dropping this week. So do take a look at that. I'll make sure it's pinned. But oh, actually, Vasia, you beat me to it. So yeah, very much so looking forward to the year ahead. And yeah, anytime you guys want to connect, I'm more than happy to. Just shoot me a DM.
Thank you, Stephen. And guys, I've been pinning up a bunch of tweets, including I just did Stephen's. Please make sure you give these guys a follow. They're doing some amazing things in this ecosystem. And we talked a lot about supporting each other. So these are definitely people you want to give a follow and make sure you follow their journey into 2025. As we kind of wrap it up, I guess I'll do a quick 2024 recap for myself and just say thank you to everyone who's been supporting along the way. It's been an interesting year for me as well, to say the least. For those that know me, I did transition out of Crypt Gallery. It was in 23, so it was a little over probably a year and a half ago now. And I think we've all been a little candid and honest about our journeys here, so I'll do the same. It definitely was a step back for me in terms of figuring out what the heck I wanted to do. And for those that know my background and story, I was an educator in the past, and I was 23, 24, literally the head of the ESL department. So I had people under me that were much older than me, and I had a steady, like, great salary, great career. And I find myself at now 28, and I was like, what the heck am I doing? And why am I full-time in Web3? But I wouldn't do it any other way. I knew I definitely didn't want to leave. I didn't want to pivot back into my old career, which I easily could have, because I just really resonate a lot with the people in this community and what the real ethos is about. And I really believe in Web3 having a larger impact in society as a whole. So for me, it goes beyond just the art and just the influence that this can have in shaping the culture and the future for the next generation. And so I definitely took a few months to recover and heal from a lot of burnout. I had a couple of health issues that unfortunately got the best of me, because that's what happens when you're in this, crypto 2021 vibe of it's never stopping and everyone's just go all the time, 24/7. And yeah, I needed a few months to really bounce back from that. And along the way, essentially came to the conclusion that I need to open my own creative agency and to function as an independent and taking on all these different projects that honestly I'm just passionate about. And I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that have come my way, and everyone that's helped me in big and small ways. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And I do believe it genuinely takes a team and a village to make things happen. So I just want to say thank you and show my gratitude for all those people, including Milton, who's my amazing co-host, including people who are just showing up and joining the space today. It means the world to me, and I genuinely mean that. And yeah, I think 2025 is going to be a big year. There's been a lot of lessons learned. The podcast launching also is pretty big for me, and I'm just, again, grateful for the community. And I think 2025 is going to bring a lot of big things for all of us, and I would love to support anyone on their journey as well. So again, guys, DMs are open, and in any which way I can help, would love to connect and have a conversation. So I'll quickly just wrap us up because we are nearing the 3-hour mark. I think some key takeaways, just since we always end it this way, and we mentioned these earlier in the space as well, so I'll make it quick. We talked a lot about the IRL events and how they have elevated since 2021. They're getting better regarding production, regarding networking opportunities and all of that. I do want to say another congratulations to everyone that's still standing, whether you're an artist, a builder, any kind of role that you play in this space. The fact that you're still here shows that you've persevered. Matic talked a lot about determination, and there's a lot of, I think, the 2021 was a bit unrealistic in terms of how quickly people blow up and how quick success comes. And I just want to reemphasize this, like, good things take time, and good things that are sustainable take time. So remember to just have faith. I want to bring a lot of good vibes into 2025. And I think it's really important to not only find inspiration, but inspire others along the way. And one good way to do this is just by being honest and sharing your story. I feel like a lot of us can relate to each other. Merv mentioned earlier about being just a good person, bring good energy, and just take action, do the thing. It'll bring you the next big thing. So I just wanted to reemphasize that. Paper Buddha earlier also mentioned that it's not a marathon. Move at your own speed. Don't FOMO. And he also mentioned to get a mentor, which I thought was just great life advice in general. Milton, I think we can pretty much close this out. I just want to wish everyone a really happy new year. I want to remind everyone that we're back Wednesday. So we're going to be back January 8th for our first episode in 2025. That's going to be Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. I hope everyone has a very healthy, happy, and 2025 filled with a lot of abundance. And I just want to really quickly shout out and chill, I guess. Follow Moments. I'm going to pin it up one quick time as Milton plays some music and exits us out of the space. But make sure to give Moments a follow, subscribe. We're on all the major streaming platforms. All these episodes get recorded, archived. And yeah, I think that is the spiel. Milton, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, but you can also just DJ us out. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody. I think resilience really comes to mind when we close out the space. So I'm going to play some I Will Survive on the way out today. But I look forward to seeing everybody bigger, better, brighter 2025. Glad you guys are still with us and looking forward to joining you back on the Moment Space very, very soon. We'll talk then. Touch grass in the meantime. Love everybody and cheers.
Thanks for tuning into Moments, the podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe and follow us to keep up with all the latest trending Web3 topics. Join us every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern on X for our live space and be a part of the dialogue.